Warning: the case you're about to hear was recovered from the restricted British Museum archive. Its contents have never been authorised for public release. Proceed at your own discretion. The British Museum. Sub-Basement 3. Department of Anomalous Antiquities. My name is Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Senior Archivist, Custodian of Restricted Collections. What you are about to hear has been recovered from sealed files, letters, journals, and testimonies once thought too disturbing for public record. Every statement you hear is drawn from Britain's forgotten centuries, the whispered history that hides between faith and fear. These are the National Occult Archives, filed, preserved, never closed. The following document was never intended for public release. Case file NOA 1723 M. Classification. Investigative report. Date of statement 9th March 1723. Location Covent Garden, London. Author Edmund Hartwell, Constable. Report on the disappearance of member at lodge meeting. I, Edmund Hartwell, Constable of the parish, do record the events of the 7th March concerning the Masons' Lodge on Henrietta Street. The lodge master sent for me at dawn. He would not speak the words aloud in the street. Inside I found 14 men pale as death. They told me their brother Thomas Blackwood had vanished during their ceremony. The ritual chamber held no windows. One door led in and out. That door was watched the entire night. Blackwood sat in the eastern corner at midnight. The brothers began their spoken rites. Candles flickered though no draught moved. A cold descended that froze their breath. One man said the shadows in the corner grew deeper. Another swore the darkness moved toward Blackwood. The eastern candles went dark all at once. When they relit them, the chair sat empty. His clothes remained folded on the seat. His ring lay atop them. I examined every wall for hidden passages. I found none. I questioned each man separately. All 14 told the same account. I searched the building from cellar to roof. Thomas Blackwood was nowhere within. The clothes smelled of something I cannot name, like earth that has never seen sun. The men spoke of oaths they had taken, words they should not have spoken aloud, names that should remain unwritten. One brother wept and said they had called something. He would not say what. I asked if Blackwood had enemies. They said he had none. I asked if he planned to flee. They swore he did not. The lodge master's hands shook as he locked the chamber. He said they would never meet there again. I filed my report with the magistrate. He told me to mark it as a disappearance and inquire no further. 3 days later, a letter arrived at the lodge. It bore no seal or signature. Inside was written a single word in Latin: Salutus, released. The brothers understood its meaning. They burned the letter and spoke of it no more. I visited the lodge house last week. The ritual chamber door is bricked over, but at night, they say a knocking comes from behind the wall, always at midnight, always 3 times. Edmund Hartwell, Constable, Covent Garden, London. 9th March 1723. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, retrieved from Metropolitan Police Historical Archives. Multiple disappearances linked to esoteric lodge meetings across London, 1720 to 1730s. Chamber location later demolished. No trace of Blackwood ever found. End of file. Case file NOA 1658T. Classification. Witness testimony. Date of statement 23rd June 1658. Location Windsor Forest, Berkshire. Author Margaret Ashfield, Herbalist Testimony, regarding the Society in the Woods. I, Margaret Ashfield, herbalist and widow, do testify to what I witnessed in Windsor Forest. I gather herbs by moonlight in summer months. The plants hold stronger properties when cut beneath the full moon. On the night of 20th June, I walked deep into the ancient wood. I heard voices chanting in unison. The words were not English. I followed the sound to a clearing I had never seen before. 13 figures stood in a circle. All wore dark robes with hoods covering their faces. Candles burned at points around them. In the center lay a book bound in leather. The pages glowed with their own pale light. One figure read from the book in a language of sharp sounds. The others repeated each phrase. The air grew thick. My breath came hard as though the forest pressed against my chest. Something moved in the darkness beyond the candles. Something that had no solid form. It circled the gathering like smoke given purpose. The figures did not see me. I crouched behind an oak and dared not move. The reader raised his arms high. The others did the same. The shapeless thing drew closer to their circle. I felt its attention like ice upon my skin. Then one of the figures turned his head toward my hiding place. His hood fell back. I saw his face was that of the magistrate's son, a man I had known since he was a boy. His eyes were black from edge to edge. No white remained. He smiled at me. His mouth opened too wide. He spoke a single word. Veni, come. My legs moved without my command. I took one step toward the circle, then another. I could not stop myself. My mind screamed, but my body obeyed. I was 3 steps from the candlelight when a fox shrieked nearby. The spell broke. I turned and ran through the forest. Branches tore my dress and skin. I heard footsteps behind me, many footsteps running in perfect rhythm. I burst from the trees onto the London road. A merchant's cart passed at that moment. I climbed aboard and begged him to drive on. He did not question me. When I looked back, 13 figures stood at the forest edge. They watched, but did not pursue. I have not returned to Windsor Forest. I buy my herbs in the market now, but each full moon I dream of that clearing. In my dreams, I walk toward the circle. I never wake before I reach the candlelight. Margaret Ashfield, Herbalist, Windsor Forest, Berkshire, 23rd June, 1658. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, recovered from parish records. Margaret Ashfield died in 1661 after walking into Windsor Forest during a full moon. Her body was found in a clearing. 13 candles burned around her. End of file. Case file NOA 1492H. Classification: Private Journal Entry. Date of statement: 14th November 1492. Location: Canterbury, Kent. Author: Brother Aldrich, monk. Journal entry on the forbidden text: R. Brother Aldrich of Canterbury. Cathedral: do record what I have discovered. 3 weeks passed. I was tasked with cataloguing the library's oldest manuscripts. In the lowest chamber, I found a chest unmarked and forgotten. The lock broke easily. Inside lay a single book wrapped in black cloth. The binding was leather of unknown origin. No title marked its cover. I opened it despite the unease in my heart. The pages held text in Latin and symbols I did not recognize. I began to read. The words described rituals of summoning, methods to pierce the veil between worlds, instructions for communion with entities unnamed. I should have stopped. I did not. I read through the night by candlelight. The words embedded themselves in my memory. I could recite passages without looking at the page. When dawn came, I hid the book beneath my mattress. I could not bring myself to return it to the chest. For 7 nights, I read until my candle burned to nothing. The book showed me secrets our order has forgotten, knowledge the church concealed for good reason. On the 8th night, I performed the first ritual. I drew symbols on my floor in ash. I spoke the words exactly as written. Nothing happened. I felt foolish and relieved. I cleaned the floor and returned to bed. But at midnight, my door opened though I had barred it. A figure entered my cell. It wore the shape of a man but moved wrong. Its joints bent in directions they should not. It spoke in Brother Thomas's voice. Brother Thomas died 4 years ago. The thing said I had called it forth. It said I had opened a door. It said others would come through that door. I recited the Lord's Prayer. The figure laughed with Thomas's mouth. It told me prayer would not close what I had opened. It walked through my wall as though stone were mist. Since that night, I see them. Shapes wearing the faces of the dead. They walk the cathedral at all hours. They stand in corners during Mass. They whisper Latin phrases I do not know. Other brothers do not see them. I am alone in my sight. Yesterday, one touched my shoulder. Its hand was so cold it burned. It said more of us are coming. It said we are eager to return. I cannot eat. I cannot sleep without seeing them crowd my cell. I burned the book 3 nights ago in the Abbey forge. It would not catch fire. The flames turned black when they touched its pages. I left it burning there. When I returned at dawn, the book sat on my bed, unharmed, open to a new page, a page I had not seen before, the title written there in fresh ink. Liber Mortuorum Viventium, the Book of the Living Dead. I am writing this before I leave Canterbury. I will take the book far from here. I will find a place where no one can discover it. But I fear the distance does not matter. I fear I will see their faces wherever I go. I fear they will follow me always. Brother Aldrich, Monk Canterbury, Kent 14th. November 1492. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft Journal, recovered from Scottish border monastery ruins. Brother Aldrich's body found in 1493, 40 miles from Canterbury. The book was never located despite extensive searches. Similar sightings reported by monks in 3 separate monasteries afterward. End of file. Case file. NOA 1784K. Classification. Medical record. Date of statement. 2nd January 1784. Location. Edinburgh, Scotland. Author. Dr. William Crane. Physician medical account of patient initiations. Dr. William Crane, physician to the Royal College. Do record my observations of 4 patients. All 4 men are members of the same philosophical society. They meet in premises on the Royal Mile. Their society studies ancient wisdom and natural philosophy. 2 weeks ago, all 4 underwent an initiation ceremony. Since that night, they exhibit identical symptoms. Each man reports the same experience. During the ritual, they were blindfolded and led into an underground chamber. They heard chanting in a language none recognized. They felt hands remove the blindfolds. When they opened their eyes, they saw something in that chamber. None will describe what they saw. Each man becomes violently agitated when pressed. One patient wept and said it should not exist. Another said it knew his name before he spoke it. The third said it wore a crown of shadows. The fourth will not speak of it at all. Since that night, they cannot sleep. When they close their eyes, they see it waiting. They see it watching them. All four report the same dream when exhaustion finally takes them. They stand again in that chamber. The thing speaks to them. It says they belong to it now. It says they made promises they do not remember making. They wake screaming the same word. Dominus, Master. I have examined each man thoroughly. I find no physical ailment. Their minds, however, deteriorate rapidly. They forget simple tasks. They lose hours of time with no memory of where they were. Yesterday, one patient arrived at my office with no knowledge of how he traveled there. He said he blinked and found himself at my door. This morning, I received word that all four went missing last night. Their families found their beds empty. Their clothes remained. Their shoes sat by their doors. This afternoon, a messenger brought word of their location. All four were found in the Society's meeting house. They stood in the underground chamber. They stood perfectly still. They faced the eastern wall. Their eyes were open, but they did not respond to their names. They have stood there for 6 hours. They have not moved. They do not blink. I went to see them myself. The chamber is cold beyond reason. The stones are covered in symbols. I do not know when those symbols appeared. The Society's members say they were not there before the initiation. I tried to move one of the men. He would not budge. His skin is ice cold. His pulse is faint. His breathing is shallow. But he lives. All four live. But they are not present in their bodies. I spoke to the Society's leader. He would not meet my eyes. He said the ritual had gone wrong. He said they called for guidance and something else answered. He said the four men volunteered to see. He would not say what they saw. I demanded he tell me how to reverse this. He said there is no reversal. He said they opened a door in their minds. He said something walked through. I left that place and have reported this to the authorities. I returned tonight to check on the patients. The chamber was empty. The four men are gone. The Society's leader is also missing. The symbols on the walls have spread. They now cover the ceiling and floor. I do not believe anyone will find those men. I believe they are still in that chamber, but they exist in a place I cannot reach. Dr. William Crane, physician, Edinburgh, Scotland 2nd, January 1784. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Society premises, sealed by city authorities, 1784. Building demolished 1802. During demolition, workers reported seeing 4 figures standing in the basement chamber. When they returned with witnesses, no figures remained. Chamber wall symbols preserved in Edinburgh City Records. End of file. Case file NOA1537W. Classification: Testimony under oath. Date of statement: 7th August 1537. Location: York, Yorkshire. Author: Simon Fletcher. Apprentice printer. Sworn testimony: on the forbidden pamphlet Y. Simon Fletcher. Apprentice to master printer John Wickham. Do swear this testimony is true. Last month, a gentleman came to our shop. He wore fine clothes and spoke with education. He paid in gold for us to print 100 copies of a manuscript. Master Wickham examined the pages. The text was in English, but contained passages in Latin. The gentleman said it was philosophical writings for his society. Master Wickham saw no harm and accepted the commission. I was tasked with setting the type. As I worked, I read portions of the text. It spoke of beings that exist between life and death. It described methods to contact these beings. It contained words that must be spoken aloud to open channels. I thought little of it. Many learned men study strange philosophies. We completed the printing after 3 days. The gentleman collected his pamphlets and departed. That night, I heard Master Wickham cry out. I ran to the printing room. He stood before the press. Fresh sheets lay in the tray. The press had printed more copies on its own. I saw the press arm move without hands upon it. The mechanism worked itself. New sheets fed through. Master Wickham tried to stop it. His hands would not touch the press. Some force pushed him back. We watched as 20 more copies printed themselves. When the press finally stopped, we burned those copies. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that. Each night, more copies appear. We have burned hundreds. But the press will not remain idle. 3 days ago, Master Wickham read one of the new copies. He said the text had changed. New pages had appeared. Pages that were not in the original manuscript. These new pages contain names. 43 names written in fresh ink. Master Wickham recognized 7 of them. All 7 were members of the Gentlemen's Society. All 7 died within the past week. Different causes. One fell from his horse. One choked during supper. One was found in the river. Master Wickham said the deaths were no accidents. He said reading the words had bound those men. He said speaking the invocation had summoned something that collected them. Yesterday, Master Wickham's name appeared on the new copies. He burned them immediately. But this morning, his name was on fresh copies. This afternoon, he collapsed in the street. The physician said his heart simply stopped. I found a new copy on the press tonight. My name is written there. I have told the authorities everything. They do not believe me. They say grief has made me mad. I am leaving York tomorrow. I will travel far from this city. But I found a copy in my room tonight. It was not there when I retired. My name is still upon it. And beneath my name a new line has appeared. Fugere non potus. You cannot flee. Simon Fletcher, Apprentice Printer, York, Yorkshire. 7th August, 1537. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Simon Fletcher died in Chester 2 weeks after this testimony. Cause of death recorded as unknown. The gentleman who commissioned the pamphlet was never identified. Similar self-printing phenomena reported in 3 other cities across England, 1537 to 1540. End of file. Case file, NOA 1691D. Classification, private letter. Date of statement, 19th October, 1691. Location, Bath, Somerset. Author, Eleanor Westbrook. Society member's wife. Letter to my sister regarding my husband's society. I, Eleanor Westbrook, do write to my sister in Bristol with urgent warning. Tell your husband he must not join the Hermetic Order in Bath. Tell him to refuse all invitations. My husband Charles joined 3 months ago. He said they studied ancient wisdom and natural laws. He said they sought enlightenment through knowledge. He attended their meetings twice monthly. He always returned at dawn. I asked what they discussed. He said matters of philosophy and science. He seemed happy. Then 6 weeks ago, something changed. Charles came home with marks upon his wrists, red circles as though bound by rope. He said it was part of a ritual, a test of dedication. I grew concerned, but he assured me all was well. The next week, He returned with a symbol cut into his palm, not deep, but precise. He said they had all received the mark. He said it was a sign of belonging. Last week, he did not return at dawn. He did not return at all. I went to the meeting house that evening. The door was locked. I knocked and received no answer. A neighbor said she saw the members arrive at midnight. She heard chanting until dawn, then silence. The door opened and the men emerged. Charles was among them. But she said he did not walk like himself. His movements were stiff. His face held no expression. When Charles finally came home, he would not speak. He sat in our parlor and stared at nothing. I spoke his name. He did not respond. I touched his hand. His skin was cold as winter stone. After an hour, he suddenly stood. He walked to his study. I followed. He was writing, page after page of text in rapid motion. When I looked at the pages, I could not read them. The letters were unknown to me. He wrote for 5 hours without pause. Then he stopped. He turned to me. He smiled, but it was not his smile. He spoke in Latin. Ego sum janua. I am the door. He collapsed. I sent for the physician. Charles woke hours later with no memory of writing. He did not know the words he had spoken. When I showed him the pages, he burned them. He said I must never read what was written there. He said the knowledge would infect my mind. Last night, I woke to find Charles standing at our window. He stared into the darkness. I asked what he saw. He said they are gathering. He said they are preparing. He said the order has opened something that cannot be closed. This morning, I have found all 12 members of the order standing in our garden. They faced our house. They did not move. They did not speak. Charles went to join them. I begged him not to. He said he must. He said they are called. He walked outside and took his place among them. They have stood there for 6 hours. The neighbors watch from their windows but dare not approach. I write this letter as the sun sets. The men remain in our garden. As darkness falls, I see something moving among them. Something that is not human. Something that wears no solid form. The men have begun to speak. All 12 voices in unison. They chant in that unknown language. The sound makes my head ache. The sound makes the windows rattle. I am leaving this house tonight. I do not believe Charles will return to himself. I believe whatever they summoned has claimed them all. Tell your husband to refuse the order. Tell him some knowledge comes at a price too great to pay. Eleanor Westbrook Bath, Somerset 19th. October 1691. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Eleanor Westbrook's letter recovered from Bristol archives. All 12 order members vanished November 1691. Their bodies were never found. The meeting house stood empty until 1695, when new residents reported seeing figures standing in the basement. Building was subsequently demolished. End of file. Case file NOA1715P. Classification: Church record. Date of statement: 3rd December 115. Location: Salisbury, Wiltshire. Author: Father Benedict Cross, Rector. Record of confession: Refused I, Father Benedict Cross, Rector of St. Martin's Church, do record an incident most troubling. A young man came to confession this morning. He gave his name as Thomas Harrow. He said he needed to confess a terrible sin. I prepared to hear him. He began to speak. He told me he belonged to a secret circle. Young men of good families seeking forbidden knowledge. They met in a rented room above a tavern. They studied texts of ritual magic. They performed ceremonies they found in ancient books. Last week, they attempted their most ambitious ritual. They sought to summon a spirit that would grant them visions of the future. They drew symbols on the floor in lamb's blood. They lit black candles at 5 points. They spoke words from a grimoire purchased at great cost. Thomas said the air in the room changed. It became heavy and thick. The candles burned with green flames. Something answered their call. It appeared in the center of their circle. Thomas said it had a shape, but the shape hurt to see. His eyes watered when he tried to focus on it. His mind struggled to understand what he witnessed. The thing spoke. It told them they had opened a door. It told them 5 must pass through. It said 5 must be given. Before they could ask what it meant, one of their circle screamed. His name was William Courtney. He stood and walked to the thing. His friends tried to hold him back. He was too strong. He walked into the shape at the circle's center. He vanished. The thing remained. It said, 4 more must come. The men fled. They ran from that room and did not stop running. Thomas said this happened 7 days ago. Since then, 2 more of their circle have vanished. Robert Finch disappeared from his locked bedroom. His window remained latched from inside. James Preston was walking in broad daylight. Witnesses saw him stop suddenly. He stared at something none could see. He walked into an alley. He never emerged from the other end. Thomas said the thing is collecting them. It appears to each member of the circle. It speaks the same words. It is time. Thomas said he sees it now. It stands behind people in the street. It waits in corners of rooms. It watches him always. He knows it will take him soon. He came to confess his sin of summoning. He begged me to tell him how to escape it. I told him to pray. I told him to seek God's protection. He laughed. His laugh held no humor. He said God does not hear prayers in the place where his friends have gone. He said he can hear them calling. They call his name from somewhere beyond. They beg him to join them. They say it is worse to be the last. I offered to perform a blessing. Thomas refused. He said holy words are meaningless now. He said they broke something when they performed that ritual. He said they created a debt that must be paid. 5 souls for the door they opened. I watched him leave the church. He walked east toward the old marketplace. I followed at a distance. In the market square, Thomas stopped. He stood perfectly still. I called to him. He did not respond. Then he smiled. He spoke one word. Venio, I come. He walked into a narrow passage between 2 buildings. I reached the passage 30 seconds behind him. Thomas was gone. The passage ends at a brick wall. There is no way out. I searched for an hour. Thomas Harrow has vanished. I have recorded this confession, though it was never completed. I have sent word to the families of the missing men. I pray for their souls, but I fear they are beyond my prayers now. Father Benedict Cross, Rector Salisbury, Wiltshire, 3rd December 1715. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Church. Records verify 5 young men vanished December 1715. 2 more members of their circle died in 1716 of unknown causes. The room they rented was later found to contain symbols burned into the floorboards. Despite attempts to remove them, the marks reappeared each morning. End of file. Case file NOA 1839L. Classification: Asylum record. Date of statement: 11th May 1839. Location: Manchester, Lancashire. Author: Dr. Peter Hammond. Asylum Director: Medical report on patient Benjamin Cole. Dr. Peter Hammond, Director of Manchester Asylum. Do record the case of patient Benjamin Cole. Cole was admitted 8 weeks ago. He claimed membership in an occult society operating in the city. He said the society promised to teach him astral projection. They said his spirit could leave his body and travel freely. He paid substantial fees to learn their techniques. The lessons took place over 3 months. Meditation exercises, breathing methods, spoken invocations. On the final night, Cole said the technique succeeded. His spirit left his body. He floated above himself. He could see his physical form sitting below. The sensation filled him with wonder. He rose higher. He passed through the ceiling. He saw the city spread beneath him. Then something else noticed him. Something that existed in that space between. Cole said it was immense. It moved through the air like an eel through water. It swam toward him with purpose. He tried to return to his body. He could not find the way back. The thing drew closer. It opened a mouth that should not exist. Inside that mouth, Cole saw faces. Dozens of faces. Hundreds of faces, all screaming. The thing tried to swallow him. Cole fought against it. He felt it pulling him deeper into the space between worlds. Then something else intervened, a presence vast and cold. It spoke without words. It offered him a choice. Return to your body and bring us with you, or stay here and join the others. Cole chose return. He woke in his physical body, but he was not alone. He felt them inside him, multiple presences sharing his flesh. They whisper constantly. He hears at least 7 distinct voices. They speak in languages he does not know. They tell him things about people he meets. Secret things, true things, things he should not know. Yesterday, a visitor came to see another patient. Cole approached him. Cole told the man his mother died when he was 9. Cole described the exact manner of her death. The visitor confirmed every detail. He had never met Cole before. He demanded to know how Cole possessed this knowledge. Cole said the voices told him. The voices see everything. The voices remember everything. They existed before humanity and will exist after. I have attempted multiple treatments. Purging, bloodletting, cold water immersion. Nothing diminishes the voices. Cole says they grow stronger. He says more are trying to enter. He feels them pressing against the boundaries of his mind. This morning, Cole spoke in 7 different languages simultaneously, all 7 voices at once. The words overlapped, but each voice was distinct. Russian, Arabic, Chinese. Languages Cole has never studied. When I showed him written samples, he could not read them. But when the voices speak through him, the words are fluent. Cole no longer sleeps. He says sleep would let them take control completely. He says he must remain conscious to keep them contained. This afternoon, Cole suffered a seizure. During the seizure, his voice changed. He spoke in Latin. Nos sumus porta, nos sumus iter, nos sumus infiniti. We are the door. We are the path. We are infinite. When the seizure ended, Cole wept. He begged me to end his life. He said death is the only way to be free of them. I refused. I am a doctor. I preserve life. But I wonder if I am cruel to keep him alive. Tonight, as I write this, I can hear Cole screaming in his cell. He screams that they are pulling him under. He screams that his mind is drowning. The voices grow louder. Dr. Peter Hammond, Asylum Director, Manchester, Lancashire, 11th May, 1839. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Benjamin Cole died in Manchester Asylum, June 1839. Medical records state his heart stopped. 7 witnesses reported hearing multiple voices speaking through him at the moment of death. The occult society he referenced was never identified despite investigation. End of file. Case file NOA1586R. Classification: Witness statement. Date of statement: 28th February 1586. Location: Newcastle. Upon Tyne, Northumberland. Author: Robert Thorne. Merchant statement on the meeting beneath the bridge. I, Robert Thorne, merchant of Newcastle, do give statement to the magistrate. I witnessed events last night that I cannot explain. I was returning from the docks near midnight. I took the path beneath the Tyne Bridge. I heard voices ahead in the darkness. Many voices speaking as one. I should have turned back. Curiosity led me forward. Beneath the bridge, I saw them. 20 men stood in a circle. They wore plain clothes. They were common men of the city. I recognized several faces. A baker, a clerk, a teacher from the grammar school. They spoke in perfect unison, the same words from every mouth. Latin phrases I did not understand. In the center of their circle sat an object, a stone carved with symbols. The stone glowed with sickly green light. As I watched, the stone began to rise. It floated upward with no hands upon it. It turned slowly in the air. The men's voices grew louder. The words came faster. Something appeared above the stone, a darkness deeper than the night around it. The darkness had a shape. The shape had eyes, many eyes. They opened one by one. Each eye looked in a different direction. Several looked directly at me. I felt their gaze like hands upon my throat. I could not breathe. I could not move. The men stopped speaking. They turned as one to face me. Their eyes reflected the green glow. One of them smiled. I knew him. His name is James Porter. He sells fish in the market. I have bought from him for years. He spoke to me. His voice was not his own. It was many voices layered together. He said I should not have seen. He said the path is not for the uninvited. He said I must choose. Join or forget. I asked what they were doing. He said they were opening gates. He said they were bringing through what was cast out. He said the old ones are eager to return. He asked if I wished to see. He asked if I wished to know. He offered me a place in their circle. I refused. I turned to run. My legs would not obey. James Porter walked toward me. He placed his hand upon my forehead. His touch burned like ice. He spoke a word. Obliviscere, forget. I woke this morning on the riverbank. I do not know how I traveled there. I remember the meeting beneath the bridge. I remember their offer. But when I try to recall their faces, the images slip away. When I try to remember the exact words they spoke, my mind turns blank. I know I saw something terrible, but the details fade like morning fog. I went to the market today. James Porter was at his stall selling fish. He smiled at me. He asked if I slept well. I said I did not. He said perhaps I dreamed. He said dreams are easily forgotten. Then he leaned close. He whispered one word. Memento. Remember. Everything flooded back. Every detail. Every face, every word. He said the forgetting was temporary. He said I would remember when they wished me to remember. He said I would return to them when called. I do not wish to return, but each night I hear them calling, many voices speaking as one. They say my name. They say I witnessed. They say I belong. Robert Thorne, merchant, Newcastle upon Tyne, Northumberland, 28th February 1586. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Robert Thorne vanished 3 weeks after this statement. His shop was found empty. Symbols matching those described on the stone were carved into his floor. Similar societies operating beneath bridges reported in 5 northern cities, 1580s, 1590s. End of file. Case file NOA176-2N. Classification. Investigative report. Date of statement 16th April 1762. Location Oxford, Oxfordshire. Author Professor Albert Whitmore, natural philosopher. Research report on the Bodleian manuscript. Professor Albert Whitmore, Fellow of Magdalen College. Do report my findings. 6 months ago, I discovered an unusual manuscript in the Bodleian Library. It was incorrectly catalogued as a medical text. The true contents were far different. The manuscript described a society that operated in Oxford during the 1400s. They called themselves the Seekers of Hidden Paths. They practiced techniques to expand consciousness beyond normal limits. They believed certain mental states allowed perception of other realities. The manuscript contained their methods. Meditation practices, breathing patterns, spoken formulas. I am a man of science. I do not believe in mystical nonsense. But the manuscript claimed verifiable results. It named specific phenomena that would manifest. I decided to test their claims. I followed their instructions precisely. 4 weeks of preparation. Meditation twice daily. Specific foods avoided. Specific herbs consumed on the night of the full moon. I performed the final ritual. I sat in my study. I spoke the words written in the manuscript. I focused my mind as instructed. Nothing happened for several minutes. I felt foolish. Then the wall of my study began to change. The stones became transparent. I could see through them. But I did not see the quadrangle beyond. I saw somewhere else. A vast space filled with geometric shapes. The shapes moved in patterns that hurt to observe. Colors that do not exist in our world. Sounds that came from no physical source. And I saw them. Beings that existed in that space. They were not physical. They were thought given form. They were awareness without flesh. They noticed me. I felt their attention like pressure against my mind. One of them approached the boundary, the place where my study met that other realm. It attempted to communicate, not with words, with concepts pushed directly into my thoughts. It showed me visions. I saw all of human history in an instant. I saw civilizations rise and fall. I saw the truth behind myths and legends. I understood that the old gods were these beings. Humanity had known them once. We had pushed them away. We had locked the doors between worlds. But the doors could be reopened. The beings showed me how many had already returned. They walk among us wearing human forms. They influence our thoughts and actions. They guide humanity toward a specific end. The being asked if I wished to see clearly. It offered to open my perception permanently. I would see them always. I would understand their purpose. I refused. I spoke the closing words written in the manuscript. The vision faded. My study returned to normal. But something changed. Since that night, I see flickers, movements at the edge of my vision, shapes that vanish when I look directly. I see them standing behind people, invisible hands upon human shoulders. I see them in crowds, faces that are almost right, but wrong in subtle ways. 3 days ago, I examined a student's essay. As he stood before my desk, I saw one standing behind him. It was guiding his hand. It was feeding him thoughts. The student spoke, but the words came from the thing behind him. I asked the student if he felt anything unusual. He said he felt inspired. He said ideas came to him fully formed. He said a voice in his mind helped him write. I told him to stop listening to that voice. He laughed. He said the voice has always been there. He said many students hear it. He said it is the voice of genius. I fear I have opened my perception too far. I fear I cannot close it again. I see them everywhere now. The manuscript warned this might happen. It said some who look through the door cannot look away. It said they become trapped between worlds, seeing both but belonging to neither. Yesterday, I burned the manuscript, but I had already memorized every word. The knowledge is in my mind now. I cannot remove it. Professor Albert Whitmore, Natural Philosopher, Oxford, Oxfordshire, 16th April, 1762, archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Professor Whitmore retired from Magdalen College in 1763. He lived in seclusion until his death in 1771. His final journal entries describe beings gathering around his bed. No manuscript matching his description has been found in the Bodleian Library's records. End of file. Case file. NOA 1643. S classification. Testimony to authorities. Date of statement. 21st July 1643. Location, Liverpool, Lancashire. Author, Thomas Green, dockworker. Testimony on the ship from Hamburg Vui. He, Thomas Green, dockworker of Liverpool. Do testify about the ship that arrived last week. The vessel came from Hamburg. She carried trade goods and passengers. Among the passengers were 7 men. They kept to themselves during the voyage. The captain said they spent their days below deck. They emerged only at night. They spoke little. They paid their passage in gold. When the ship docked, I helped unload cargo. The 7 men waited until all others had departed. Then they emerged carrying a large chest. The chest was iron-bound and locked. It required 4 men to lift it. I asked what was inside. One of the men smiled. He said it was knowledge. He said it was power. He said it was the future. They hired a wagon and departed toward the city. That night, I was drinking at the ship, an anchor. I heard voices from the room above the tavern, many voices speaking in rhythm. I recognized Latin words. The tavern keeper said the 7 men had rented the room. They paid for a month in advance. They said they were scholars studying ancient texts. The voices grew louder. Other patrons heard them too. We listened as the chanting built to a crescendo. Then sudden silence. A scream followed. Not a human scream, something that hurt the ears to hear. The ceiling shook. Glasses fell from shelves. The tavern keeper ran upstairs. I followed him. The door to the rented room stood open. Inside, the 7 men lay on the floor. All 7 unconscious. The iron chest sat open in the center. It was empty. No books, no objects, nothing inside. But the room was freezing cold. Our breath hung in clouds. In summer, symbols were drawn on every wall in something dark. I realized it was blood. The men began to wake. They spoke in languages none present understood. They looked at us, but did not see us. Their eyes focused on something behind us, something we could not see. One man stood. He walked to the window. He spoke one word, exeunt. They go forth. He jumped. We were 3 floors above the street. The other 6 rose as one. They walked to the window. They jumped in turn. All 7 died on the cobblestones below. We searched the room. The chest revealed nothing more. The symbols on the walls began to fade. By morning, they had vanished completely. The authorities asked what the men were doing. I said they performed some ritual. I said they opened the chest and released something. The magistrate said I spoke nonsense. He said the men were mad. He said nothing was released. But I know what I felt in that room. I felt something pass through me, like a wind that came from nowhere, like breath upon my neck. I felt many things pass through. The chest had held them. The ritual set them free. Since that night, I hear whispers in empty rooms. I see shadows move with no source. I feel watched always. Others who are in the tavern report the same. We speak to each other in low voices. We wonder what was in that chest. We wonder what now walks among us. Thomas Green, dock worker, Liverpool, Lancashire, 21st July, 1643. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Liverpool City Records confirms 7 deaths by falling in July 1643. The men's identities were never established. No chest matching the description was found. Similar reports of ritual releases documented in 3 other port cities, 1640 to 1650. End of file. Case file, NOA1807V. Classification, Personal Journal. Date of statement, 5th September, 1807. Location, Bristol, Gloucestershire. Author, Sarah Blackwood. Bookseller. Journal entry on the stolen book. Why? Sarah Blackwood, proprietor of Blackwood Rare Books. Do record what has occurred. Last month, a private library was sold at auction. The deceased collector had amassed volumes on occult subjects. I purchased 12 books for my shop. Among them was a slim volume in black leather. No title marked its spine. The pages inside were handwritten. Latin text mixed with symbols. I displayed it with my other rare books. 3 days later, a woman entered my shop. She wore a hood despite the warm weather. She walked directly to the black volume. She took it from the shelf. She opened it and read silently. After several minutes, she looked at me. Her eyes were wide. She asked the price. I named a figure. She said she must have it. She said it belonged to her society. She said it had been stolen from them 20 years ago. I said I purchased it legally at auction. She said the book was not mine to sell. She said it could only belong to those who understand it. She said reading it would harm me. I insisted on payment. She refused. She walked toward the door with the book. I grabbed her arm. She turned. She spoke in Latin. Noli tangere. Do not touch. A force threw me backward. I struck the wall. The woman left with the book. I reported the theft to the authorities. They found no trace of her. That night, I woke to someone standing in my bedroom. A figure in the shadows. Female by shape. She spoke. You have touched the book. You have read the words. You are marked. I tried to light a candle. The figure vanished, but I heard her voice continue. It came from everywhere and nowhere. She said the book was a key. She said it opened doors that should remain closed. She said anyone who reads it is changed. She said I would begin to see. I thought her mad, but the next day I began to see. I saw marks on people's foreheads, symbols invisible to normal sight. Some people wore many marks. Others wore none. I asked the customer about the marks. She had no idea what I meant. I realized only I could see them. The marks divide people into 2 groups, those who belong to something and those who are unaware. I saw the woman again yesterday. She stood across the street watching my shop. The marks on her forehead were complex, many symbols layered together. She smiled at me. She pointed to my reflection in the window. I looked. A mark had appeared on my own forehead. A simple symbol. The beginning. I scrubbed my face. The mark remained. Only I can see it. Only those like me can see it. This morning, I saw others with the same mark. 5 people in the market. All of them looked at me. All of them nodded. They recognized what I had become. I do not know what this means. I do not know what the marks signify. But I understand I have been inducted into something without my consent. I have become part of a society I did not choose. The woman stands across the street every day now. She watches. She waits. I believe she waits for me to understand. I believe she waits for me to accept. But I do not know what I am accepting. Sarah Blackwood, bookseller, Bristol, Gloucestershire, 5th September, 1807. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Sarah Blackwood's shop closed in 1808. Records indicate she joined a philosophical society in Bristol. She was last seen in 1812 entering a building marked only with a symbol on its door. The building stood empty by 1813. No record of Blackwood afterward. End of file. Case file NOA 1794M. Classification: Account to Magistrate. Date of statement: 12th March 1794. Location: Birmingham, Warwickshire. Author: Richard Stone, Night Watchman. Account of the factory gathering. Why Richard Stone, night watchman at the Blackwell factory. Do give account of events. I have worked night watch for 5 years. I know every sound the factory makes. Last week, I heard something new. Voices from the foundry floor. I went to investigate. The foundry should have been empty. Instead, I found 30 workers standing in formation. They faced a makeshift altar. On the altar lay tools of their trade: hammers, chisels, measuring instruments. A man stood before the altar. I recognized him as John Miller. He works the furnaces by day. Miller spoke in a language I did not know. The workers repeated his words. All 30 voices in perfect unison. Steam rose from the floor vents. The steam formed shapes in the air, shapes that moved with purpose, shapes that watched. I called out for them to explain themselves. They turned as one to face me. Their eyes reflected the furnace glow. Miller stepped toward me. He said they were baptizing the factory. He said they were consecrating the place to their brotherhood. He said factories are the new temples. He said labor is the new prayer. He said they worship the power of industry. He said machines are closer to gods than men. He asked if I wished to join their rite. I refused. I said they were trespassing. I said I would report them. Miller smiled. He said I would not report them. He said I would forget I saw anything. He raised his hand. The workers began to chant, the same word over and over. Dormir, sleep. My eyes grew heavy. My legs weakened. I fell to my knees. I heard Miller's voice as though through water. He said when I woke, the memory would fade. He said I would doubt what I had seen. I woke at dawn on the factory floor. The workers were gone. The altar was dismantled. No evidence remained. I thought perhaps I had dreamed it. But that night, I heard them again. The chanting, the voices in unison. I went to the foundry. Empty. The sounds came from nowhere. Every night since, I hear them. The chanting fills the factory after midnight, but I can never find the source. I have watched the workers during day shifts. 30 men work with perfect coordination. They move as though guided by one mind. They never speak. They communicate with looks and gestures. Yesterday, I saw them, carving symbols into the machines, small marks hidden from casual observation. When I examined the marks, my head ached. My vision blurred. I backed away. Miller approached me. He asked if I was unwell. I asked about the symbols. He said they were nothing. He said I was overworked. He said I should rest. As he walked away, he spoke one word: obliviscere, forget. But I do not forget. I remember everything. I know something is wrong in this factory. I know these men belong to a society. I know they practice their rituals in secret. I know they carve their signs into the machines, but I do not know their purpose. I do not know what they worship. I do not know what they seek to create. Tonight, I will hide and watch. I will document their gathering. I will learn their secrets. If I do not return to make another report, search for me in the foundry. Search for me where the steam rises from below. Richard Stone, Night Watchman, Birmingham, Warwickshire, 12th March 1794. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Richard Stone disappeared March 13, 1794. His body was discovered in the factory furnace 3 days later. Authorities ruled it accidental death. Factory production increased 40% following his death. Workers attributed improvement to better coordination. Factory demolished 1823 after multiple accidents. Symbols found carved throughout structure. End of file. Case file NOA 1598F. Classification: Witness statement to authorities. Date of statement: 6th June 1598. Location: Chester, Cheshire. Author: Father William Morton, parish priest. Statement: regarding the society in the cathedral crypt. Father William Morton, priest of Chester Cathedral, do give statement about discoveries made below the cathedral. For 6 months, I have heard sounds from beneath the floor. During night prayers, I heard chanting, voices speaking in unison. I assumed it was my imagination. Last week, I discovered I was not alone in hearing them. 3 other clergy reported the same sounds. We decided to investigate. The cathedral has crypts below, some sealed for centuries. We searched until we found a door unmarked in records. The door was locked. We forced it open. Stone steps led down into darkness. We descended with candles. The passage opened into a chamber. The chamber was in use. Candles burned in wall sconces. Symbols covered the floor. A table held books and instruments. We heard footsteps approaching. We hid behind stone pillars. 7 men entered the chamber. They wore robes of deep blue. They carried no lights yet moved with certainty. They took positions around the symbols. They began to speak Latin words of ritual, but the Latin was wrong. The grammar was correct, but the words were arranged in patterns no church would use. They were invoking something. I recognized the name they called: Baphomet, the demon the Templars were accused of worshipping. The air in the chamber changed. It became thick and oppressive. My chest tightened. My breath came short. One of the robed men drew a knife. He cut his palm. Blood dripped onto the symbols. The others did the same. 7 palms bleeding onto stone. The blood began to move. It flowed along the carved lines. It filled the symbols with a red light. A sound came from beneath the floor. A scraping, like stone dragging on stone. The center of the symbol pattern began to sink. The floor opened. Beneath was darkness absolute. From that darkness came a voice, deep and vast. It spoke one word in Latin: Servite, serve. The 7 men knelt. They spoke in unison. We are your servants. We are your hands in this world. We await your return. The voice spoke again. Soon. The veil grows thin. The door opens. You have done well. The floor began to close. The darkness withdrew. The bloodlight faded. The robed men stood. They removed their robes. Beneath, they wore the clothes of ordinary men. I recognized 2 of them. One was a merchant I had seen at market. The other was a clerk who works for the city magistrate. Common men of Chester. Men who walk the streets each day. Men who secretly worship beneath the cathedral. The 7 departed. We emerged from hiding. We examined the chamber. The books contained rituals, methods to thin the barrier between worlds, ways to call forth what was banished. We gathered the books. We gathered the instruments. We brought everything to the bishop. He heard our account. His face went pale. He said this was not the first time. He said societies like this appear in every generation. He said they worship old things, things that existed before Christianity, things that wait in the dark spaces between, things that desire return. The bishop ordered the chamber sealed. He ordered the entrance bricked closed. He ordered us to speak of this to no one. But I cannot remain silent. I have written this statement. I have given it to the authorities. I pray they act. I pray they find the 7 men. I pray they stop what is coming. But I fear prayer is not enough. I fear the barrier is already breaking. I fear the door is already opening. Father William Morton, Parish Priest. Chester, Cheshire, 6 June, 1598. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The chamber beneath Chester Cathedral was sealed in 1598. In 1873, during cathedral renovations, workers broke through the seal. The chamber was empty. All books and instruments had vanished. Fresh symbols were carved into the floor. Workers reported voices from below. Chamber was permanently filled with concrete. End of file. Case file. NOA 1726B. Classification. Confession. Date of statement. 19th November, 1726. Location. Leeds, Yorkshire. Author. Henry Walsh. Former society member. Confession of crimes against nature. Y. Henry Walsh. Formerly of the Order of the Crimson Key. Do confess my sins. For 3 years, I belonged to a secret society in Leeds. We met in a house on the edge of the city. The house belonged to no one we could name. The deed was held by a trust that went back centuries. We were 20 members, men of different trades and stations, united by our search for hidden knowledge. The society taught us rituals, ways to see beyond normal sight, ways to hear what others cannot hear, ways to touch the fabric of reality itself. We believed we were scholars. We believed we sought truth. We did not understand what we were truly doing. Each month, we performed a ceremony. We drew blood from our hands. We spoke words in a dead language. We opened our minds to receive visions. The visions came. They showed us wonders. They showed us horrors. They showed us things that should not exist. With each ceremony, the visions grew stronger. With each ceremony, we changed. I noticed it in the others first. Their eyes became distant. They smiled at inappropriate moments. They spoke of the visions as though they were real places. Then I noticed the changes in myself. I began to hear whispers when alone. I began to see figures at the edge of my sight. I began to feel other presences sharing my thoughts. The society leaders said this was progress. They said we were achieving higher consciousness. They said we were becoming more than human. 6 months ago, we performed our greatest ritual. We gathered on the winter solstice. We brought offerings of gold and silver. We carved symbols into our flesh. We spoke the names we had learned. We called for the veil to part. It parted. Something came through. Not one thing, many things. They poured into our circle like smoke. They entered our bodies. I felt them pushing into my mind. I felt them taking root in my thoughts. I felt myself becoming less, becoming shared. The others welcomed the possession. They said they felt completed. They said they were no longer alone. But I fought against it. I used every prayer I remembered from childhood. I called on God to protect me. Something heard. The presence inside me withdrew. But it did not leave completely. It waits. I can feel it coiled in the back of my mind. When I sleep, it tries to take control. I wake to find myself in places I did not walk to. I wake with blood on my hands. I wake with knowledge I should not possess. Yesterday, I went to the society house to renounce my membership. The house stood empty. All furniture removed. All trace of our gathering gone. But I heard them. I heard all 19 others speaking in unison. Their voices came from nowhere. They said I could not leave. They said I was bound by the oaths I swore. They said the thing inside me would grow. They said it would eventually consume me entirely. They said I would join them in the place beyond. I have come to the church to confess. I have told Father, Michael, everything. He says I must pray. He says I must fast. He says I must resist the presence within. But I grow weaker each day. The thing grows stronger. Last night, it spoke with my mouth. I was not asleep. I was fully conscious. But my mouth opened and words came forth in a voice not mine. Nos redimus. We return. I write this confession as warning. If you are invited to join a secret society, if they promise knowledge and power, if they ask you to perform rituals, refuse. Some doors should never be opened. Some knowledge carries too high a price. Some things that enter cannot be expelled. Henry Walsh, former society member, Leeds, Yorkshire. 19th November 1726. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Henry Walsh died in Leeds Infirmary, December 1726. Cause of death, listed as wasting illness. Hospital records note he spoke constantly in unknown languages during final days. The Order of the Crimson Key appears in no official records. House location never identified. End of file. Case file NOA1612Q. Classification. Medical testimony. Date of statement 8th October 1612. Location Cambridge, Cambridgeshire. Author Dr. Lawrence Pemberton. University physician, medical testimony on the Student Society Wire. Dr. Lawrence Pemberton, physician to Cambridge University, do testify regarding 5 students. All 5 belong to a philosophical society that meets in secret. They call themselves the Seekers of Ancient Light. 3 weeks ago, they attempted a ritual they found in a medieval manuscript. The ritual promised to grant visions of universal truth. Since that night, all 5 suffer identical afflictions. They cannot bear daylight. Their skin blisters in the sun. They wear heavy cloaks and move only after dark. Their eyes have changed. The pupils have expanded. They cover almost the entire eye. Only thin rings of color remain at the edges. They claim to see in complete darkness. They say darkness is not dark to them anymore. They say they see things moving in the shadows, things that have always been there, things that most humans cannot perceive. I examined the first student, Jonathan Price, 2 days ago. His pulse was abnormally slow. His skin was cold to touch. His breath had an unusual odor, like earth from deep underground. I asked him about the ritual. He said they lit black candles in a circle. They read from the manuscript by candlelight. They spoke invocations to entities they called the dwellers below. At midnight, the candles went out simultaneously. Complete darkness filled the room. In that darkness, they heard movement. Many things moving around them, breathing, shuffling, whispers in languages older than Latin. When they relit the candles, the room was unchanged. But they were changed. Jonathan said something touched each of them in the dark, something that left a mark. He showed me his left shoulder. A handprint was burned into his skin, but the hand had 6 fingers, each finger too long. The other 4 students bear identical marks. I have no medical explanation. The burns show no sign of heat. The skin is marked but not damaged. The pattern seems pressed into the flesh. Yesterday, all 5 students vanished from their rooms. Their doors remained locked from inside. Their windows were closed. At sunset, they were found in the university crypts. They stood among the old coffins. They claimed they did not remember walking there. They said they woke in the darkness below. They said it felt like home. This morning, I observed them during dawn. As the sun rose, they began to writhe in pain. Their skin reddened. They screamed and fled into shadow. The Society's manuscript has been seized by university authorities. I examined it briefly. The text describes the dwellers below as beings of eternal night. It says they existed before the sun. It says they were driven into deep places by the light. It says they wait in darkness for the chance to return. The ritual was meant to seek their wisdom. Instead, it seems to have marked these students as belonging to them. The 5 young men grow more comfortable in darkness each day. They grow more uncomfortable in our world. They speak of hearing calls from below the ground. They speak of wanting to descend. They speak of finding the deepest places. I fear they are being drawn downward. I fear they will follow that call. I fear we cannot stop them. Dr. Lawrence Pemberton, University Physician, Cambridge, Cambridgeshire, 8th October, 1612. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. All 5 students disappeared November 1612. Extensive searches found no trace. In 1889, during excavation beneath Cambridge, workers discovered a sealed chamber. 5 skeletons were found arranged in a circle. Each skeleton showed evidence of 6-fingered handprints burned into the bones. End of file. Case file. NOA 17488. Classification. Constable's report. Date of statement. 14th February, 1748. Location. Norwich, Norfolk. Author. Thomas Barrett. Constable. Report on the Guildhall gathering. Thomas Barrett, Constable of Norwich. Do report events at the old Guildhall. For 3 months, citizens reported strange lights from the abandoned building. The Guildhall has stood empty for 20 years. The previous guild dissolved after unexplained deaths among members. Last night, I investigated with 2 other constables. We approached at midnight. Lights flickered in the upper windows. We heard voices chanting. The front door stood open. We entered with caution. The main hall held 30 people. All wore masks carved from wood. The masks depicted animals, wolves, ravens, owls, foxes. They stood in 3 concentric circles. In the center sat a wooden box. The box was very old. Strange carvings covered its surface. One masked figure stepped forward. He wore the wolf mask. He opened the box. Inside lay bones, human bones, a skull, finger bones, fragments of ribs. The wolf figure lifted the skull. He held it high. He spoke in Latin. Surge et ambula, rise and walk. The others repeated the phrase. Their voices echoed strangely in the hall. The temperature dropped. Our breath became visible. The bones in the box began to rattle. They moved of their own accord. They assembled themselves. I watched as the skeleton reformed, bones connecting without hands to guide them. The skull settled atop the spine. The fingers curled. The jaw opened. A voice came from the skull. It spoke one word, liberi, free. The masked figures bowed. The wolf figure spoke to the skeleton. He called it master. He said they had kept their promise. He said they had gathered every year for 200 years. He said they had called and called. He said finally the master had answered. The skeleton turned its empty sockets toward us. It saw us, though it had no eyes. It raised one bony hand. It pointed at us. The masked figures turned as one. 30 masked faces staring. The wolf figure spoke. He said we had witnessed what should remain hidden. He said we must join or be silenced. We ran. We fled that hall and did not stop running. Behind us we heard footsteps, many footsteps, and one set that clicked with each step. Bone on stone. We reached the street. We turned to look back. The Guildhall door stood open. 30 masked figures stood in the doorway. Behind them, we saw it. The skeleton standing, moving, alive in its way. This morning, I reported to the magistrate. He said I must have been drunk. He said skeletons do not walk. He said I will be disciplined for wasting his time. But the other 2 constables saw it too. We all saw it. Tonight, I found a wooden mask on my doorstep. A raven mask. A note was attached. You witnessed the awakening. You are invited to join. Tomorrow night at midnight. The Guildhall awaits. I do not know if I should go. I do not know if I can refuse. I fear what happens to those who refuse. Thomas Barrett, Constable Norwich, Norfolk, 14th February 1748. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Thomas Barrett vanished. February 15th, 1748. The other 2 constables disappeared within the week. Guildhall burned to the ground March 1748. During excavation of the ruins, no human remains were found. Only 30 wooden masks buried in the ash. End of file. Case file NOA1529. Classification. Witness account. Date of statement 25th April 1529. Location Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire. Author Agnes Whitfield, midwife. Account of the Birth Society. Why Agnes Whitfield, midwife of Stratford. Do give account of what I discovered. I was called to attend a difficult birth. The mother was wife to a wealthy merchant. She had laboured for 2 days. The child would not come. When I arrived, I found the bedchamber crowded. 12 women stood around the bed. All wore identical silver pendants, circles with strange marks inside. They were chanting softly. The same phrase repeated endlessly. Vita pro vita. Life for life. I asked them to leave. The mother needed quiet and space. They refused. They said they were helping. They said their presence was necessary. The eldest woman approached me. She said they were the circle of the silver moon. She said they assisted at all births in their society. She said their rituals ensured healthy children. I examined the mother. The situation was dire. The child was positioned wrong. Both mother and baby were at risk. I prepared to turn the child. The women began chanting louder. Their voices rose in intensity. The words became harsher, no longer Latin, something older. The air in the room changed. It pressed against my skin. The candles flickered though no wind blew. The mother screamed. Her body convulsed. The child came suddenly, too suddenly, unnaturally fast. I caught the infant, a healthy boy, but his eyes were open. Newborns do not open their eyes immediately. He stared directly at me. His gaze held awareness impossible for a newborn. The silver pendant women gathered around. They touched the child. They whispered to him. They spoke of destiny. They spoke of purpose. They spoke of power he would wield. I cleaned the child and gave him to his mother. She smiled, but her smile was strange, empty, as though she performed a role. The eldest woman paid me generously. She said I had done well. She said the child was perfect. She said he would be great among their number. I asked what she meant. She said their society had existed for centuries. She said they guide the birth of special children. She said they mark certain infants for their purposes. She said the ritual during birth opens the child's mind. She said it allows something to enter. She said the child will grow with two souls, his own and another. The other will guide him. The other will shape him. The other will use him. I asked what enters the child. She smiled. She said I would not understand. She said I should forget what I witnessed. She touched my forehead. She spoke one word, oblivio, forget. I woke the next morning in my own bed. I did not remember walking home. For a week, I could not recall the birth. Then slowly, the memories returned. I went to check on the mother and child. The house stood empty. The neighbors said the family left suddenly. No one knew where they went. I have attended 5 more births since then. Each time, the silver pendant women appeared. Always 12 of them. Always the same ritual. Always the same result. Children born with open eyes. Children staring with impossible awareness. I refuse to attend these births now, but the women find me. They appear at my door. They say I am bound to them. They say I witnessed their secret. They say I am part of it now. Last night, I found a silver pendant on my doorstep. The circle with strange marks. I threw it away. This morning, it hung around my neck. I do not remember putting it on. I cannot remove it. The clasp will not open. Agnes Whitfield, midwife, Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire, 25th April 1529. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Agnes Whitfield's testimony recovered from church records. She disappeared in 1530. Records show 12 children born in Stratford, 1529 to 1530, with identical circumstances. All 12 families vanished simultaneously in March 1531. The circle of the silver moon mentioned in 3 other counties during same period. End of file. Case file NOA 1816A classification. Prison record. Date of statement 7th July 1816. Location Lancaster, Lancashire. Author William Cross, prison guard. Prison record of condemned men. I, William Cross, guard at Lancaster. Prison, do record events before the hanging. 7 men were sentenced to death. All 7 belonged to a secret brotherhood. They called themselves the Bound Ones. Their crimes were theft and assault. But rumors said their true crimes were darker. They met in secret. They practiced rituals. They worshipped something ancient. The night before their execution, I heard them singing. All 7 voices from different cells, singing in perfect harmony. The song had no words, only sounds that made my teeth ache. I went to investigate. Each man stood at his cell door. Each man faced the same direction, east toward the rising sun. But the sun had set hours ago. I asked what they were doing. They smiled. They said they were calling. They said the bound ones never die. They said death is merely passage. They said they would return. I told them to be silent. They laughed. All 7 laughed at once. The same laugh from 7 mouths. At midnight, the singing stopped. The prison fell silent. Too silent. No rat scratching. No wind outside. No breathing from the cells. I walked the corridor. I looked into each cell. The 7 men sat on their cots. They stared at nothing. Their eyes were open, but they did not blink. Their chest did not rise or fall. I called to them. No response. I opened one cell. I shook the prisoner. His skin was ice cold. He had no pulse. He was dead. I checked the others. All 7 dead. All sitting upright. All with eyes open. All cold as winter stone. I sent for the doctor. He examined them. He found no cause of death. Their hearts simply stopped. All 7 at exactly midnight. The doctor said it was impossible. 7 men could not die simultaneously without cause. I told him about the singing. I told him about their final words. He said I imagined it. He said stress plays tricks on the mind. We left the bodies in the cells until morning. At dawn, I returned to supervise removal. The cells stood empty, all 7 bodies gone. The doors remained locked. The windows were barred. No way in or out. We searched the entire prison. No trace of the corpses. Then we heard it, singing. The same wordless song from the night before. It came from deep below the prison. We followed the sound. It led to the old dungeons, sealed for 50 years. The door was open. We descended. At the bottom, we found them. 7 bodies arranged in a circle. They lay on the floor of the ancient dungeon, their hands joined, their eyes still open. But now those eyes glowed faintly, a pale light from within. The singing came from their dead mouths. We tried to move them. They would not budge. They seemed fixed to the stone. A priest was summoned. He performed a blessing. The bodies burst into flames, green flames that gave no heat. The flames consumed them in seconds. Nothing remained but ash. The ash formed symbols on the floor, symbols that hurt to look upon. The priest said, "A prayer." The symbols faded, but I swear I heard 7 voices whisper, "Not yet ended, not yet done." We sealed the dungeon again. We bricked over the entrance. But each night at midnight, I hear it. The singing, rising from below. 7 voices calling. William Cross, Prison Guard, Lancaster. Lancashire, 7th July, 1816. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Lancaster Prison, demolished in 1865. During demolition, workers discovered the sealed dungeon. The symbols had returned. 7 shapes were seen standing in the darkness below. Workers refused to continue. Dungeon was filled with concrete. Singing still reportedly heard on certain nights. End of file. Case file NOA 1673T. Classification Scholars Report. Date of statement 12th September 1673. Location Durham County, Durham. Author Samuel Blackwell, Antiquarian Report on the Society of Watchers' Wives. Samuel Blackwell, scholar and collector of antiquities, do report my findings. I was researching medieval manuscripts in Durham Cathedral Library. I discovered references to a society called the Watchers. They appeared in records from the 1200s. They claimed to guard against something. Against what? The records did not say. I became fascinated. I searched for more information. I found mention of a meeting house. The house supposedly still stood on the outskirts of Durham. I went to investigate. I found the building easily. An old stone structure, unmarked and unremarkable. The door was unlocked. Inside, I found a single large room. The walls were covered in carvings. Dates carved into the stone. Hundreds of dates. The earliest was 1187. The most recent was 3 days ago. Below each date was carved a single word. Vigilatum. Watched. In the center of the room stood a stone chair, facing a window that looked north. I sat in the chair out of curiosity. From this position, I saw what the window showed. A distant hill. Upon that hill stood ancient stones, a circle of standing stones. I had seen them before in my travels. Locals called them the Devil's Crown. As I watched, the sun began to set. Shadows stretched across the hill. The stones cast long, dark shapes. Then I saw movement. Something walked among the stones. It moved wrong, too tall, too thin, moving in a way that defied the body's limitations. I watched as it circled the stones. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. It turned toward Durham. It turned toward this house, toward me. I felt its gaze, though it was miles distant. I felt recognition. I felt interest. Behind me, a voice spoke. You should not have sat in the watcher's chair. I turned. An old man stood in the doorway. He wore robes of grey. He said he was the current watcher. He said his family had held this duty for 200 years. He said every day someone must sit and watch the stones. He said something lives there, something that must be observed. He said if no one watches, it comes. He said it came once before, in 1349, the year of the Great Plague. He said the watcher died. For 3 days no one sat the chair. For 3 days no one observed. The thing left the stones. It walked to Durham. Plague followed in its footsteps. He said the society formed after that. They vowed always to watch, day and night, never allowing the thing to go unobserved. He said observation keeps it confined. He said it cannot move while being seen. I asked why it turned toward me. He said it knows when someone new watches. He said it tests them. He said now I am bound. He said I saw it and it saw me. He said I am part of the watching now. I left that house. I returned to my studies. But each evening I feel drawn to that window. I feel the need to watch. I returned 3 times this week. Each time I saw it, standing among the stones, staring toward Durham, staring toward me. The old watcher says I am fortunate. He says I may leave Durham. He says it rarely follows those who leave. But I cannot leave. I am compelled to watch. I dream of the stones. I dream of the thing that walks among them. I dream that one night no one will watch, and it will come. Samuel Blackwell, Antiquarian, Durham, County Durham, 12th September, 1673. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Samuel Blackwell became official watcher in 1674. His descendants maintained the duty until 1847, when the house burned. No watcher sat the chair for 1 week. Disease outbreak occurred in Durham. 17 dead. New watcher appointed immediately. House rebuilt. Watching continues. End of file. Case file. NOA 1789P. Classification. Personal diary entry. Date of statement. 3rd November 1789. Location. Exeter, Devon. Author Catherine Morrison, Society member. Diary entry on my initiation. Catherine Morrison, write this account in my private diary. Last night, I was initiated into the Society of the Silver Key. I had been invited 3 months ago. The society is composed of learned women. We study ancient philosophy and natural magic. I thought it would be an intellectual pursuit. I was wrong. The initiation took place at midnight. I was brought to a house I did not know, blindfolded for the journey. When the blindfold was removed, I stood in a circular room. 12 women formed a circle around me. All wore white robes. All held candles. The eldest woman spoke. She said I must prove my dedication. She said I must face the trial. She said I must meet the guardian. I asked what guardian she meant. She smiled. She said I would see. The women began to chant. The candles flickered. The room grew cold. A door opened in the wall. A door I swear was not there before. Beyond the door lay darkness. The eldest woman said I must enter. I must walk through the darkness. I must find what waits at the center. I must ask it one question. If it answers, I am accepted. If it refuses, I must leave and never speak of this. I stepped through the door. It closed behind me. Complete darkness surrounded me. I could see nothing. Not my hand before my face. Nothing. I walked forward slowly. My hand stretched ahead. I felt walls on either side, a corridor. I walked for several minutes. The corridor turned again. I lost all sense of direction. Then I heard breathing, not my own. Something ahead, something large. I stopped. The breathing continued, slow and deep. I called out. I asked if someone was there. A voice answered, not human, too deep, too resonant. It asked what I sought. I said I sought knowledge. It laughed. The laugh echoed strangely. It said many seek knowledge. It said few can bear the price. It asked if I was willing to pay. I asked what price it demanded. It said I must give something precious. It said I must sacrifice what I hold dear, not gold, not blood, memory. I must give it a memory that matters to me. In exchange, it would grant knowledge. I hesitated. It said I could refuse. I could turn back, but I would never be offered this choice again. I thought of all I hoped to learn, all the secrets I wished to know. I agreed. The thing moved closer. I felt its presence. Vast and cold. It asked which memory I would give. I chose my first kiss, a sweet memory from my youth. The thing reached out. I felt something touch my mind. The memory was pulled away, removed completely. I can remember that I gave a memory, but I cannot recall what the memory contained. The thing spoke again. It said I was accepted. It said knowledge would come. It said I belonged to them now. Light appeared. A door opened ahead. I walked through. I found myself back in the circular room. The 12 women smiled. They said I passed the trial. They said I was sister now. They gave me a silver key. They said it opens doors others cannot see. This morning, I woke with knowledge I did not possess before. I can read languages I never studied. I understand concepts that were foreign yesterday. My mind feels expanded, but there is an emptiness too, a hollow place where something was removed. I touch that place and feel loss, but I do not know what I lost. Catherine Morrison, Society member, Exeter, Devon, 3rd November 1789. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Catherine Morrison's diary recovered from estate sale. She rose to prominence in intellectual circles, publishing works on ancient philosophy. She died in 1823 surrounded by books. Her final words reportedly were, "I would trade it all for what I gave." The Society of the Silver Key appears in records from 6 cities. End of file. Case file. NOA 1541W classification. Testimony to Bishop. Date of statement, 18th May, 1541. Location, Worcester, Worcestershire. Author, Brother Timothy. Monk testimony regarding the Brothers' Circle. I, Brother Timothy of Worcester Abbey. Abbey, do testify to my bishop about discoveries made. 6 of our brothers have formed a secret circle. They meet in the old scriptorium after midnight prayers. I have known for 2 months. I said nothing because I was uncertain. Now I am certain something is wrong. Last week, I followed them. I watched from the shadows. The 6 brothers arranged candles in a pattern. They opened a book I did not recognize. The book was bound in dark leather. The pages looked very old. One brother read from it. The others repeated his words. The words were Latin but strange. The phrasing was wrong. They spoke of opening paths. They spoke of calling forth teachers. They spoke of learning secrets God has hidden. As they chanted, the air changed. I felt pressure in my ears. My vision blurred. Then I saw something. A shape appeared in the center of their circle. Not solid. Like smoke given form. Like shadow made 3-dimensional. It had no face. But I felt it seeing. I felt it aware. The brothers did not seem afraid. They bowed to the shape. One brother spoke. He asked for knowledge. He asked to understand mysteries. He asked for wisdom beyond mortal reach. The shape moved toward him. It touched him. Where it touched, the brother's skin turned grey. The colour spread from the point of contact, up his arm, across his shoulder. The brother smiled. He said he could feel it. He said knowledge was flooding his mind. He said he understood everything now. The other brothers watched eagerly. Each one asked to be touched. Each one received the grey mark. Each one claimed enlightenment. I watched in horror. When they departed, I examined the scriptorium. The book lay on the floor. I opened it. The text described entities called the Grey Teachers. It said they exist beyond our world. It said they possess infinite knowledge. It said they will share knowledge with those who open themselves. But there was a warning, written in different ink, added later. The warning said the teachers take as they give. They take free will. They take independence. They take self. Those touched by them become vessels, empty shells filled with teacher thought. Since that night, I have watched the 6 brothers. They move differently now. They walk in perfect synchronization. They speak the same phrases. They turn their heads at the same moment. When one speaks, the others mouth the same words. They are becoming one mind, or rather, they are becoming extensions of the same mind. The teacher's mind. Yesterday, they approached me, all 6 together. They spoke in unison. They said I had witnessed. They said I could not remain outside. They said I must join them. They said the great teachers wish to spread. They said all the brothers will eventually be touched. They said the entire abbey will become one mind. They said it is glorious. I refused. They did not force me. They smiled. They said I would choose in time. They said everyone chooses eventually. This morning, I found the book on my bed. I did not bring it there. The book was open to a specific page, a ritual of invitation. If spoken, the great teachers will come. I have brought this book to you, Bishop. I have told you everything. I beg you to act before the 6 brothers spread this infection. I beg you to stop this before all are touched. Brother Timothy, Monk Worcester, Worcestershire, 18th May, 1541. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Worcester Abbey, records show 12 monks died mysteriously in June 1541. All died in their sleep on the same night. All bore grey marks on their skin. The book was never found. Brother Timothy survived and transferred to another abbey. He never spoke again. End of file. Case file. NOA 1805K. Classification. Legal deposition. Date of statement. 9th March, 1805. Location, Sheffield, Yorkshire. Author, Jonathan Mills. Solicitor, legal deposition regarding estate of Lord Ashford I. Jonathan Mills, solicitor. Do give deposition regarding the estate of the late Lord Ashford. Lord Ashford died 3 weeks ago. The circumstances were unusual. He was found in his study, seated at his desk. His hand held a pen. The pen was frozen in position above paper. Lord Ashford was dead, but his eyes remained open. His expression showed terror. The physician could find no cause of death. I was called to execute the will. Among Lord Ashford's effects, I found a journal. The final entries were disturbing. Lord Ashford wrote about a society he had joined, a group of wealthy men who studied occult philosophy. They called themselves the Order of the Black Sun. They met monthly in a rented estate. They practiced rituals meant to grant power. Power over fate. Power over fortune. Power over death itself. Lord Ashford's journal described their most recent meeting. They attempted to summon what they called the Keeper of Bargains, an entity that could grant wishes in exchange for payment. The ritual succeeded. Lord Ashford wrote that something appeared in their circle, something that spoke with each member privately, something that offered each man his heart's desire. Lord Ashford wished for immortality. The keeper agreed. It said Lord Ashford would live forever, but there was a condition. His body would die. His consciousness would continue. Trapped in dead flesh, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to die again, aware forever. Lord Ashford realized his mistake. He tried to refuse. The keeper said the bargain was sealed. He had asked. He had received. Payment was due. Lord Ashford's final journal entry was yesterday. He wrote that he felt his body failing. He wrote that his heart was slowing. He wrote that he was terrified. He wrote one final line. I am dying, but I will not end. I examined Lord Ashford's body again after reading this. The physician had noted the corpse showed no decay. 3 weeks dead in warm weather. No decomposition. No smell. The body remained fresh. I looked closely at the face. The eyes. I swear I saw the eyes move. Just slightly. A small shift of gaze, looking at me. I called the physician. He examined the eyes. He said it was impossible. Dead eyes do not move, but he saw it too. A tiny movement, the eyes tracking us as we moved around the room. We covered the face with a cloth. I continued examining the estate. I found a letter from the Order of the Black Sun. It was addressed to Lord Ashford, dated after his death. The letter welcomed him to eternal membership. It said his consciousness now existed beyond flesh. It said he would understand in time. It said all members eventually make the same bargain. It said the order has members centuries old, still aware, still conscious, bodies long buried but minds still present. It said Lord Ashford's body would be collected. It said he would join the others. It said they gather together, all the immortal consciousnesses, trapped in their preserved corpses, meeting in eternal vigil, unable to move, unable to act, only observe and think, forever. This morning, Lord Ashford's body was stolen from my office. The coffin was taken, no sign of forced entry, no witnesses. I reported it to authorities. They are investigating. But I received another letter today, from the Order. It thanks me for my service. It says Lord Ashford is among friends now. It asks if I wish to join. It says immortality awaits those brave enough to ask. I have burned the letter. I want nothing from them. Jonathan Mills, Solicitor Sheffield, Yorkshire, 9th March, 1805. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The Order of the Black Sun mentioned in multiple estate documents, 1750 to 1850. 12 bodies of members were never found after death. Burial plots remain empty. Witnesses reported seeing these men's bodies in various locations decades after their recorded deaths. Always still, always watching. End of file. Case file. NOA1697D. Classification. Medical Journal entry. Date of statement. 27th December 1697. Location, Plymouth, Devon. Author, Dr. Edward Thornton, physician. Journal entry, on collective illness. Why? Dr. Edward Thornton, physician. Do record an illness affecting multiple patients. 8 men have presented with identical symptoms. All 8 belong to the same fraternal society. The society meets weekly to discuss philosophy and conduct charitable works. Or so they claim. 2 weeks ago, all 8 attended a special ceremony, an initiation for 3 new members. Since that night, they have grown ill. The symptoms are progressive. First, they reported hearing whispers, voices speaking words they could not understand. The voices came at night. Many, voices overlapping. Then they began to see shadows. Shadows that moved independently. Shadows that gathered in corners. Shadows that watched them. Next came the marks. Small symbols appeared on their skin, starting on the arms, spreading to the chest, moving toward the heart. The marks are not tattoos. They appear from within the skin, as though written by something inside. I have no medical explanation. I examined all 8 men thoroughly. Beyond the marks, they are healthy, but they grow more disturbed each day. They claim the shadows speak to them. They claim the shadows want something. Yesterday, one patient became hysterical. His name is Peter Walsh. He said the shadows were inside him now. He said they moved through his veins like smoke. He said they whispered directly to his heart. He begged me to remove them. I gave him laudanum to calm him. He fell asleep. When he woke, he was different. His agitation was gone. He smiled. He said the shadows made peace with him. He said he understood now. He said they were not invading. They were merging. He said he was becoming something new, something that exists in both light and shadow. I asked what happened at the initiation ceremony. Peter said they called upon ancient patrons, beings that have guided their society for centuries. They offered themselves as vessels. They invited the patrons to dwell within them. The patrons accepted. Now 8 men carry passengers in their flesh. Peter said, "It is an honor." He said the patrons grant power. He said they share forbidden knowledge. He said all society members eventually become vessels. The tradition spans hundreds of years. This morning, all 8 patients arrived at my office together. They moved in perfect synchronization. They spoke in perfect harmony. They said I had witnessed their transformation. They said I could not remain outside. They said their patrons wished to expand. They offered me membership in their society. They said I would make an excellent vessel. They said my medical knowledge would serve the patrons well. I refused. They left without argument. But tonight, I heard whispers, many voices speaking at once. I lit every candle in my house. The voices quieted. But in the candlelight, I saw them. Shadows standing in my room. Shadows with no source. Shadows that watched. I know they are the patrons. I know they are looking for new vessels. I know I am being considered. Dr. Edward Thornton, physician, Plymouth, Devon, 27th, December 1697. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Dr. Thornton, disappeared January 1698. His office was found empty. All patient records were missing. 18 months later, he reappeared in Plymouth. He had no memory of his absence. He bore symbols on his skin. He claimed to have joined a philosophical society. He died in 1720. At his funeral, mourners reported seeing shadows gather around his coffin. End of file. Case file NOA1732L. Classification. Witness report. Date of statement 15th August 1732. Location Gloucester, Gloucestershire. Author Mary Fletcher, housekeeper. Report on Employers' Society. I, Mary Fletcher, housekeeper to Sir James Worthington, do report events in this household. Sir James belongs to a society of learned gentlemen. They call themselves the Philosopher's Circle. They meet in Sir James's library every fortnight. 8 men attend these meetings. They arrive at sunset. They depart at sunrise. For months, I thought nothing of it. Learned men have their pursuits. Then, 3 weeks ago, I heard something disturbing. I was passing the library near midnight. I heard voices raised. One man was shouting. He said this had gone too far. He said they had crossed a line. He said he wanted no more of it. Sir James spoke calmly. He said they had all agreed. He said they had all participated. He said there was no leaving now. The shouting man said he would go to the authorities. Sir James laughed. He said the authorities would not believe him. He said who would credit such a tale. Then I heard a strange sound, a word spoken in Latin, silentium, silence. The shouting stopped. I heard a body fall. I pressed my ear to the door. Sir James spoke again. He said the brother had betrayed them. He said the penalty for betrayal was clear. He said the vessel must be fed. I heard dragging. Something heavy pulled across the floor. Then a door opening. The secret panel in the library wall. I knew of it. I had seen Sir James use it. It led to a hidden room. I had never been inside. The dragging sound continued. Downstairs I did not know existed. I waited until all was silent. Then I opened the library door. The room was empty. The secret panel stood open. I lit a candle and entered. Stone steps descended into darkness. I climbed down carefully. At the bottom, I found a chamber. In the center stood a large stone basin. The basin was filled with dark liquid. I knew immediately it was blood. Around the basin were carved symbols, the same symbols I had seen in Sir James's books, books he kept locked away, books written in languages I did not recognize. Then I heard the voices, coming from the blood. Many voices speaking as one. They spoke in Latin, plus sanguinem, more blood, plus anima, more souls. I fled up the stairs. I closed the secret panel. I ran to my room. The next morning, I asked Sir James about his guest, the man who had shouted. Sir James said the man took ill. He said the man departed early. I know this is a lie. I know what I heard. I know what they did. This afternoon, Sir James called me to the library. The other 7 men were present. They sat in silence, all 8 staring at me. Sir James asked if I had heard anything unusual last night. I said I had not. He smiled. He said that was good. He said servants who hear too much become troublesome. He said troublesome people disappear. He said the vessel is always hungry. He said 8 souls have fed it already. He said 1 more would make 9. A powerful number. I understood the threat. I said I heard nothing. I said I know nothing. I said I will speak of nothing. Sir James nodded. He dismissed me. But as I left, one of the men spoke. He said I should be careful. He said accidents happen to the curious. Tonight, I am leaving this house. I am fleeing Gloucester. I write this report as record. If I disappear, let it be known. Sir James Worthington and his society have killed. They feed blood to something in the hidden chamber. They call it the vessel. They speak of it granting power. They speak of it granting knowledge. But the price is souls. Mary Fletcher, housekeeper, Gloucester. Gloucestershire, 15th August, 1732. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Mary Fletcher's report found in church archives. She disappeared 2 days after writing it. Sir James Worthington's house, searched in 1733 after multiple missing persons reports. Secret chamber discovered. Stone basin found filled with dark residue. Analysis inconclusive. 8 symbols carved around the basin. 8 men vanished from Gloucester society, 1730 to 1732. Bodies never found. End of file. Case file NOA 1846R. Classification Coroner's Statement. Date of statement 4th October 1846. Location Hull, Yorkshire. Author Benjamin Wright. Coroner Statement on Unexplained Deaths. I, Benjamin Wright, Coroner for the City of Hull, do state findings on 4 deaths. 4 men died within 1 week. All 4 were members of the Maritime Philosophical Society. The society meets monthly to discuss navigation and astronomy. The first death was John Preston, found in his home, sitting in his chair, his eyes open, his mouth open, frozen in mid-scream. No marks on the body, no poison detected, no illness present. His face showed absolute terror. The second death was Robert Mills, found on the street. He had been running. He collapsed mid-stride. Same expression of terror, same open mouth locked in a scream. No physical cause. The third death was Thomas Green, found in the society meeting hall, collapsed at the lectern. Same terror, same scream, same mysterious cause. The fourth death was James Wilson, found in his office, clutching his desk. His fingernails had torn the wood. Same frozen scream, same inexplicable death. I examined all 4 bodies thoroughly. I found only one common element. All 4 bore the same mark. A small symbol burned into their left wrist. The mark was recent, applied within days of death. I interviewed the remaining society members. 20 men survive. All 20 bear the same mark. They said it was applied during their last meeting, a new initiation ritual. They hired a man to perform it, a traveler who claimed knowledge of ancient practices. The man brought a branding iron, heated in a strange flame, green fire that burned cold. He marked each member in turn. He spoke words in an unknown tongue. He said the mark would protect them. He said it would bind them to hidden knowledge. He said it would open their minds. The surviving members now live in fear. They believe the mark is killing them. They believe something follows the marked. They claim to see a figure, a shape that appears at night, tall and thin, moving without sound. They say it comes to each marked man in turn. It stands at the foot of their bed. It watches. Then it touches them. Where it touches, they freeze. Terror locks their body. Their heart stops from fear alone. I thought this was hysteria. Men frightened by unexplained deaths. Then last night, I saw it myself. I was examining the society meeting hall again, searching for clues. At midnight, the temperature dropped. My breath became visible. A shape appeared in the doorway. Impossibly tall, impossibly thin. It had the form of a man, but wrong in every proportion. It turned its head towards me. It had no face, just smooth surface where features should be. It moved into the room, silent, gliding rather than walking. It approached the lectern, where Thomas Green had died. It stood there. Then it turned to me. I felt its attention. Though it had no eyes, I felt it seeing me. My body would not move. Terror held me frozen. It raised one hand. The hand was too long, too many joints in the fingers. It pointed at me. Then it vanished, simply gone. I examined my body. No marks, no wounds. But I felt different, changed. I returned home. I have not slept. I fear sleep. I fear what might stand at the foot of my bed. This morning, another society member died, found in his home. Same frozen scream, same terror, same mysterious death. 19 marked men remain. I fear they will all die. I fear the thing will claim them one by one. I fear I may have been marked by its attention. Benjamin Wright, Coroner Hull, Yorkshire 4th. October 1846 archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. All 20 marked society members died by November 1846. Benjamin Wright died December 1846. Same frozen expression. The traveller who applied the marks was never identified. Similar marking rituals reported in 3 coastal cities, 1840s. All resulted in deaths. The green firebrand never recovered. End of file. Case file NOA1578M. Classification Church testimony. Date of statement 22nd June 1578. Location Winchester, Hampshire. Author Father Gregory Walsh, Bishop Secretary. Testimony on the Cathedral Night Watch 1. Father Gregory Walsh, Secretary to the Bishop of Winchester. Do testify about the night watch. Winchester Cathedral employs 4 men to guard the building at night. They work in pairs. 2 men patrol the cathedral. 2 men watch the entrances. 3 nights ago, Both pairs reported the same incident. They heard singing from within the cathedral. Beautiful voices in perfect harmony. They went to investigate. They found 12 figures kneeling in the nave. All wore hooded cloaks. All faced the altar. The singing came from them. The guards called out. The singing stopped. The figures stood as one. They turned to face the guards. Their hoods fell back. The guards saw their faces. All 12 faces were identical. The exact same features, same eyes, same nose, same mouth. 12 copies of one man. The guards fled. They reported to the bishop immediately. We thought they imagined it. We thought darkness played tricks. But last night, I saw them myself. I remained in the cathedral after evening prayer, hidden in the choir stalls. At midnight, they appeared. The 12 identical figures. They entered through the main door, though I heard no lock turn. They arranged themselves in a circle. They began to speak in unison, Latin prayers. But the prayers were backwards, every word reversed, every phrase inverted. Then they changed. Their faces shifted. Each became different. 12 unique faces now. One was young, one was old. Some were women, some were men. They continued speaking, no longer in unison, each voice different, each speaking different words. But somehow the words harmonized, created meaning together. I strained to understand. They spoke of the old ways. They spoke of power buried beneath the cathedral. They spoke of awakening what sleeps. The stones beneath their feet began to glow, faint light rising from below. The floor itself became translucent. I saw through it. Beneath the cathedral lay another structure, ancient beyond measure, built long before Christianity came to Britain, a temple of some elder faith. And within that temple, something moved, something immense, something that had been sleeping. The 12 figures spoke faster. Their words blurred together. The light from below grew brighter. The thing in the ancient temple began to rise. I felt it pushing upward, toward the cathedral floor, toward our world. I broke from my hiding place. I shouted prayers. I made the sign of the cross. The 12 figures turned to me. All 12 faces showed surprise, then anger. They spoke as one voice again. Fugitive, one who flees. You have interrupted the awakening. You have delayed our purpose. You will not stop us. They walked toward me, not walking, gliding. Their feet did not touch the floor. I ran to the altar. I grabbed the cross. I held it before me. They stopped. They did not flee. They merely smiled. One spoke. Your symbol holds power only if you believe it does. Do you believe truly? I hesitated. In that moment of doubt, they moved closer. I felt their cold breath. I felt their presence pressing against me. Then the cathedral bell rang, not by any hand. The bell rang of its own accord. The sound was deafening. The figures recoiled. They covered their ears. They screamed. Their forms became transparent. They faded like morning mist. Gone. I fell to my knees. I thank God for deliverance, but I know they will return. I know they seek to wake what sleeps below. I know the cathedral sits atop something ancient, something that should not wake. Father Gregory Walsh, Bishop Secretary, Winchester, Hampshire, 22nd June, 1578. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Winchester Cathedral records mention 12-person societies operating since 1100s. Archaeological surveys in 1920s confirmed pre-Christian temple beneath cathedral foundation. The site was sealed. Strange figures still reportedly seen in the cathedral at midnight. Bell rings without human touch. Always 12 times. End of file. Case file NOA 1476V. Classification Ship's log. Entry Date of statement 11th January 1476. Location Dover, Kent. Author Captain William Thorne. Shipmaster. Log entry on passenger cargo. On Captain William Thorne, master of the merchant vessel St. Mary. Do record events of our crossing from Calais. We carried 12 passengers, all men of learning. They said they were scholars returning from the continent. They paid well for private quarters below deck. The voyage began unremarkably. The passengers remained below during daylight. They emerged only after sunset. On the second night, I heard chanting. I went below to investigate. The 12 men knelt in a circle. Between them lay an iron box. The box was sealed with 7 locks. They chanted in Latin over the box. I asked what they were doing. The eldest man looked up. He said they were containing something. He said the box must never be opened. He said they transported it to England for safekeeping. I asked what was inside. He would not say. He said knowledge of it would drive men mad. He said the box had been sealed for 300 years. He said it must remain sealed for 300 more. On the third night, the storm came. Waves like mountains. Wind that tore the sails. The ship pitched violently. I heard screaming from below. I fought my way down the ladder. The passengers' quarters were flooded. Water poured through the hull. The 12 men struggled with the iron box. One of the locks had broken. The eldest man shouted orders. They chained the box to the support beam. They wrapped it in canvas. They spoke prayers over it. But I heard something else. A voice from inside the box, speaking in a language I did not know. The voice was not human. Too many tones at once, like many creatures speaking together. The eldest man saw my expression. He said, "Do not listen." He said, "The voice calls to the weak-minded." He said, "It promises power." He said, "It lies." The storm raged for 6 more hours. When dawn came, we had survived, but one passenger was missing. A young man named Thomas. We searched the ship. We found him in the cargo hold. He stood before the iron box. One hand rested on it. His eyes were closed. His lips moved, but no sound came. The eldest man grabbed him, pulled him away. Thomas opened his eyes. His pupils were completely black. He smiled. He spoke in that same inhuman voice. "Apertum, open." The eldest man struck him. Thomas collapsed. The black faded from his eyes. He woke confused. He had no memory of leaving his quarters. The eldest man said the thing in the box had called to Thomas. He said it sensed a weak point. It tried to use Thomas to open the box. He said we must reach shore quickly. He said the box must be buried again, deep underground where no one would find it. We reached over at dusk. The 12 men carried the box ashore. I was glad to see them go. But that night, I dreamed. I dreamed of the box. I dreamed of opening it. I dreamed of what lay inside. A shape that was not a shape. A thing that existed in too many dimensions. A consciousness vast and ancient. It spoke to me in the dream. It said the locks would not hold forever. It said time weakens all bonds. It said eventually someone would open the box. It said it could wait. It had waited thousands of years. It could wait thousands more. I woke screaming. My crew found me on deck, trying to jump into the sea. I said the voice told me to. I said the voice promised peace. They restrained me for my own safety. 3 days later, I recovered, but I still hear it sometimes, late at night, when all is quiet. A voice calling from somewhere far away, calling my name, promising things I should not want. Captain William Thorne, Shipmaster Dover, Kent 11 January 1476. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. No record exists of the 12 scholars or their destination. The iron box was never registered with any authority. Similar sealed containers mentioned in manuscripts from 5 European countries, all reportedly contain entities that must never be released. Location of boxes currently unknown. End of file. Case file. NOA 1823H. Classification. Asylum record. Date of statement. 19th April 1823. Location. York, Yorkshire. Author. Dr. Samuel Price, Asylum Director. Record of Patient Society. Members E. Dr. Samuel Price, Director of York Asylum. Do record the admission of 6 patients. All 6 arrived together. All 6 members of the same society. They call themselves the Brotherhood of Eternal Thought. They were brought by magistrate order, found in a house performing disturbing acts. The 6 men sat in a circle. They had been sitting for 3 days, without food, without water, without sleep, without movement. When authorities entered, the men did not react. They stared ahead with blank expressions. Their breathing was barely detectable. Their pulses were faint. They appeared to be in a trance. It took hours to rouse them. When they woke, they were violent. They screamed that they had been interrupted. They screamed that they were close. They screamed that they almost achieved it. At the asylum, they have told me their purpose. They sought to separate consciousness from flesh. They believed the mind could exist without the body. They believed thought could become independent. They practiced meditation techniques, breathing exercises, mental disciplines. They claimed success in brief moments, seconds where their awareness left their bodies, floating free, observing themselves from outside. The sensation was addictive. They wanted more. They wanted to stay outside longer. 3 weeks ago, they attempted the ultimate separation. They gathered in their meeting house. They prepared for 3 days. Fasting, meditation, preparation of mind and body. On the appointed night, they began. They sat in their circle. They synchronized their breathing. They spoke mantras in unison. They felt themselves lifting, consciousness separating from flesh. All 6 succeeded simultaneously. They floated above their bodies. They could see themselves sitting below. They could see each other as pure awareness, spirits without form. They explored this state, moving through walls, rising through floors. They discovered they could travel anywhere. They went to see their families. They watched their sleeping children. They observed their homes. Then, one of them noticed something. Something else moved in that space. Other consciousnesses without bodies, many of them, some human, some not. Things that had never been flesh, things that existed as pure thought, ancient things, hungry things. These beings noticed the 6. They approached. They tried to communicate, but their thoughts were incomprehensible. Alien patterns of consciousness. One of the 6 panicked. He tried to return to his body. He could not find the way back. The thread connecting consciousness to flesh had stretched too far. He called for help. The others tried to guide him. But the alien things surrounded them. They pressed close. They tried to merge. They tried to consume. The 6 fled, racing back toward their bodies, finding the threads that bound them, pulling themselves down, slamming back into flesh. All 6 returned, but something came with them. They feel presences inside their minds now, thoughts that are not their own, voices speaking in patterns they cannot understand. They claim their heads are crowded, multiple consciousnesses sharing their skulls, human and inhuman together. I observe them carefully. Sometimes their faces change, expressions that are not human, ways of looking that suggest something else peers through their eyes. They speak in languages they never learned. They know things they should not know. One patient told me the name of my mother, my dead mother. He described her perfectly. He said she was there, in the space between. He said many dead remain there, unable to move on, trapped as consciousness without form. Another patient speaks in a voice not his own. The voice claims to have existed for eons. It says it has no body. It says it envies flesh. It says it will keep this body now. The patient's true consciousness is still present. I can see him struggling behind his eyes. But the other thing grows stronger. It pushes the patient deeper. I fear the patient will be completely displaced. The body will continue, but the original mind will be gone, buried beneath an ancient awareness. Yesterday, one patient attempted to leave his body again. He sat perfectly still. His breathing stopped. His heart slowed to almost nothing. His consciousness began to separate. I saw his eyes go distant. I saw something leaving. Then multiple things rushed into the empty space. His body convulsed. His eyes opened. Multiple voices spoke from his mouth at once. All different. All fighting for control. The body could not contain them. It collapsed. The patient died. But for hours after, the body twitched. The mouth moved. The hands reached, as though multiple things tried to puppet the dead flesh. The 5 remaining patients witnessed this. They are terrified. They beg me to help them. They say the presences inside them grow stronger daily. They say they are being pushed out of their own minds. They say soon they will be gone completely. Their bodies will walk and talk, but they will not be inside. They will be elsewhere, lost in the space between, while something else wears their flesh. Dr. Samuel Price, Asylum Director, York, Yorkshire, 19th April, 1823. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. 4 of the 5 remaining patients died within a month. Causes of death varied, but all appeared to involve multiple consciousness attempting to inhabit one body. The 5th patient, identified as Robert Mills, survived. He was released in 1825. Witnesses reported him speaking in 7 different voices. He claimed his original consciousness remained, but was now minority resident in his own flesh. End of file. Case file NOA 163M8F. Classification: Military Report. Date of statement: 5th July 1638. Location: Carlisle, Cumberland. Author: Colonel Henry Blackwood. Regiment Commander, Military Report on Border Investigation 1. Colonel Henry Blackwood, Commander of the Border Regiment. Do report on an investigation. For 6 months, livestock have been found dead near the Scottish border. Always in the same area. Always with the same marks. Circular burns on the flesh. Symbols burned into the hide. No evidence of natural predators. I led a patrol to investigate. We found a stone circle in the hills. ancient stones arranged in a ring. The locals avoid the place. They say it belongs to the old brotherhood, a society that existed before the Romans, that still exists now. They meet in secret. They practice ancient rites. They worship old gods. We watched the stone circle for 3 nights. On the 3rd night, figures approached. 20 men in dark robes. They carried torches. They entered the stone circle. They arranged themselves around the perimeter. One man stood at the center. He raised his arms. He spoke in a language I did not recognize. Harsh syllables, guttural sounds. The others responded in the same tongue. Then they began to move, not walking, dancing, a slow circular motion around the center figure. The torches left trails of light. The light formed patterns in the air, patterns that remained visible, glowing symbols hanging in darkness. I realized they were writing with light, writing words in that ancient language. The power symbols grew brighter. The air within the circle began to shimmer, like heat rising from stone. Something was forming, coalescing from nothing, taking shape in the center. I ordered my men to advance. We surrounded the stone circle. We called for the men to halt. They did not stop. They did not acknowledge us. They continued their dance. Their chanting grew louder. The thing in the center became more solid. It had a form now, roughly human, but too large. 8 feet tall, arms too long, head misshapen. It turned to look at us. It had eyes like fire. It opened its mouth. A sound came forth that was not a voice. Pure force, pure pressure. My men clutched their ears. Several fell to their knees. I stood my ground. I raised my pistol. I fired at the thing. The shot passed through it. It had no substance yet, still forming, still solidifying. The center figure laughed. He said we were fools. He said we interrupted the summoning. He said the entity was almost through. He said it would have granted them power. He said it would have answered their questions. He said we had delayed but not stopped them. I ordered my men to seize them. We arrested all 20. We bound them. We marched them to Carlisle. The thing in the center faded as they left the circle. It reached toward them as it vanished. It spoke one word: return. At the garrison, I questioned the men. The center figure identified himself as master of the Brotherhood. He said their society had existed for 2,000 years. He said they kept alive the old ways. He said they communed with entities from before time. He said these entities granted knowledge, knowledge of the future, knowledge of the past, knowledge of worlds beyond our own. I asked what price these entities demanded. He smiled. He said the price was paid long ago. He said the Brotherhood made a bargain generations past. He said they gave something precious. He said they gave their freedom. He said all Brotherhood members were bound to the entities. He said their souls were owned. He said when they died, they went to serve the entities. He said they did not go to heaven or hell. They went elsewhere, to a place where the entities dwell. I asked if he regretted this. He said regret was meaningless. He said the bargain was eternal. He said every generation of his family had belonged. He said his children would belong. He said the binding could not be broken. We held them for trial. They were charged with witchcraft. The trial lasted 1 week. All 20 were found guilty. They were sentenced to hang. The night before execution, I checked their cells. All 20 men were smiling. They said death held no terror for them. They said they would continue serving. They said they would be more useful on the other side. They said they would guide the next generation from beyond. At dawn, we led them to the gallows. They went without resistance. They went singing that same harsh language, that same ancient tongue. As each man hung, he spoke final words. All 20 said the same thing. We returned to our masters. After the executions, I burned their bodies. I scattered the ashes. I wanted no trace to remain. But that night, I dreamed. All 20 men stood in my chamber. They were not dead, or rather, they were dead but present. The master spoke. He thanked me for freeing them. He said their service was more effective now. He said the brotherhood would continue. He said new members were already being initiated. He said the old gods never die. They merely sleep, and the brotherhood ensures they wake. Colonel Henry Blackwood, Regiment Commander Carlisle, Cumberland, 5th July 1638. Archive note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The old brotherhood mentioned in border region records spanning centuries. Stone Circle location never officially recorded. Multiple reports of gatherings at unnamed locations near Scottish border. Livestock deaths with similar markings continue to present day. No perpetrators ever identified. End of file. Case file NOA 1769S. Classification University record. Date of statement 28 September 1769. Location Aberdeen, Scotland. Author Professor Duncan MacLeod. Natural Philosophy Academic Record on Student Disappearances. Professor Duncan MacLeod. Do record events at Aberdeen University. 5 students have vanished this term. All 5 were members of a study group. They called it the Society for Advanced Understanding. They met weekly to discuss philosophy beyond the curriculum. I was asked to investigate their disappearance. I searched their meeting room. I found their notebooks. The early entries discussed normal philosophical topics: Plato, Aristotle, Descartes. But the recent entries grew strange. They wrote of discovering a method, a technique, to expand consciousness beyond normal limits. They found it in a medieval manuscript in the library. The manuscript described achieving what it called the state of complete knowing, a mental state where all knowledge becomes accessible, where the boundaries of individual mind dissolve, where consciousness merges with the universal mind. The students were intrigued. They followed the manuscript's instructions: preparation rituals, meditation sequences, spoken formulas. They reported initial success, brief moments where their awareness expanded. They felt connected to something vast. They sensed information flowing into their minds. They became obsessed. They met daily instead of weekly. They spent hours attempting to achieve the state. They fasted. They denied themselves sleep. They pushed themselves to exhaustion. 3 weeks ago, they attempted a final breakthrough. They gathered in their meeting room. They brought candles and incense. They created the conditions described in the manuscript. They synchronized their breathing. They spoke the formulas together. They achieved the state of complete knowing. All 5 at once. Their final notebook entry described the experience. Written by all 5 hands. The same words written 5 times. One sentence. We have merged with the all. We cannot return. We do not wish to return. This is better than existence. This is transcendence. After that entry, nothing. The students did not return to their rooms. They did not attend classes. They simply vanished. I found no trace of them. Then yesterday, something unusual occurred. I was lecturing to a new class. A student raised his hand. He asked a question. As he spoke, his voice changed. It became layered. Multiple voices speaking as one. 5 voices I recognized. The 5 missing students, all speaking through this one student's mouth. The student's eyes went distant. He did not seem aware of what he was saying. The 5 voices spoke. They said they had not vanished. They said they had transcended. They said they existed now as pure consciousness. They said they could inhabit any receptive mind. They said they moved between students like wind through leaves. They said it was glorious. They said their individual identities had dissolved. They said they were now part of something greater. They said they were the state itself. The student collapsed. When he woke, he had no memory of speaking. I showed him what he had written during the episode. Notes in 5 different handwritings, all saying the same thing. We are everywhere now. We are in all minds that are open. We are the knowing. Since then, I have observed students carefully. Sometimes I see the change, a flicker in the eyes, a shift in expression, a moment where someone else looks out. I believe the 5 students are moving through the student body, inhabiting different minds temporarily, never staying long enough to be caught, always moving, always spreading. This morning, I found a note on my desk, written in 5 different hands. Do not fear us, Professor. We mean no harm. We have simply evolved beyond singular existence. We are the future of consciousness. Individual minds will join the collective. All will be one. All will know all. You will understand when you join us. I have reported this to university authorities. They think I am mad. They say students do not disappear into collective consciousness. They say I am overworked. But I know what I have witnessed. I know those 5 students exist, not as individuals, but as a distributed awareness, moving through other minds, growing stronger, spreading further, and I fear they will not stop. I fear they will keep absorbing others. I fear the collective will grow, until no individual minds remain. Professor Duncan MacLeod, Natural Philosophy, Aberdeen, Scotland, 28th September 1769. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Professor. MacLeod died in 1770. His death was attributed to exhaustion. His final journal entries were written in 5 different handwritings simultaneously. Aberdeen University experienced unusual student behavior. 1775. Reports of students speaking in multiple voices. Reports of collective knowledge appearing spontaneously. Phenomenon gradually ceased or was concealed. End of file. Case file. NOA 1514B. Classification. Constable's investigation. Date of statement: 16th March 1514. Location: Nottingham, Nottinghamshire. Author: Hugh Carpenter. Constable Investigation Report on Forest Society 1. Hugh Carpenter, Constable of Nottingham. Do report on events in Sherwood Forest. For 3 months, travellers have reported seeing lights, deep in the forest, moving between the trees, always at night, always in the same area. Yesterday, a merchant reported more. He saw figures, hooded and robed, carrying lanterns, moving in procession through the trees. I organised a search party, 10 men, all armed. We entered the forest at dusk. We tracked the reported location. We found a clearing. In the centre stood an ancient oak. The tree was immense, its trunk wider than a house, its branches spread like a roof. Around the tree, someone had cleared the ground, Symbols were carved into the earth, a circle within a circle, lines radiating from the center. We waited in hiding. At midnight, they came. 16 figures in brown robes. They entered the clearing silently. They formed a circle around the oak. They placed their lanterns at specific points, 8 points of light around the tree. Then they began to chant. Words in English, but arranged strangely. Ancient English. Old words forgotten by most. They called to the tree. They called it by a name. Greenfather, Elderwood, the living one. They asked for its blessing. They asked for its power. They asked for its protection. As they chanted, the tree began to glow. Faint light from within the bark. Green light like spring growth. The light spread through the branches, through the leaves. The entire tree became luminous. Then the tree moved. The branches shifted, not from wind, with purpose. The trunk creaked and groaned. The bark split. A face emerged in the wood. Eyes of knotted wood. Mouth of split bark. The tree spoke. Its voice was like wind through leaves, like creaking branches, like roots pushing through earth. It said the old words. It said the ancient agreement. It said the forest remembers. The hooded figures bowed. The eldest stepped forward. He placed his hand on the trunk. He spoke. He said they were descendants of the first keepers. He said their bloodlines had guarded the forest for generations. He said they maintained the ancient pacts. He said they kept the old ways alive. The tree face smiled. It said the keepers were faithful. It said the forest would protect them. It said, as long as keepers remain, the forest lives. I had seen enough. I ordered my men to advance. We emerged from hiding. We demanded they explain themselves. The hooded figures turned to us. The eldest removed his hood. I recognized him. A respected merchant from Nottingham. He said we had made a mistake. He said we interrupted a sacred rite. He said we angered the forest. I said forests do not speak. I said trees do not have faces. He smiled sadly. He said I did not understand. He said the tree was more than wood. He said it was the heart of the forest. He said it held the forest's consciousness. He said it was aware. It was alive in ways I could not comprehend. He said if the tree died, the entire forest would die. He said their society kept it alive. He said they fed it. He said they gave it energy. He said they gave it worship. I asked if this was witchcraft. He said it was older than witchcraft. He said it was the first religion. He said humans worshipped trees before they worshipped gods. I said they must cease. I said I would report them. The eldest nodded. He turned to the tree. He spoke one word. Judge. The tree's face looked at us, at me, at my 10 men. Its eyes were ancient, beyond age, beyond time. It spoke. These men do not understand. They are not keepers. They are not bound. They may leave, but they must not return. The forest does not welcome unbelievers. I felt something then, a pressure, the forest pressing against my mind, the tree's will pushing me away. I found myself backing toward the forest edge. My men did the same. We could not resist. We were expelled from the clearing, pushed out by force we could not see. We stumbled into Nottingham at dawn. I made my report. The magistrate said I imagined it. He said trees do not speak, but 3 of my men corroborate my account. They saw the same. They heard the same. And now when I walk near the forest edge, I feel it. The forest watching, the tree aware of me, the ancient consciousness that dwells there. Knowing I do not believe. Knowing I am not welcome. Hugh Carpenter. Constable Nottingham, Nottinghamshire. 16th March 1514. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Tree. Worship societies documented across Britain. Many trace lineage to pre-Christian practices. Sherwood Forest, ancient oak location, never precisely identified. Forest contains several trees over 1,000 years old. Which, if any, serves as the focal point remains unknown. Similar societies reported active in 7 major forests. End of file. Case file NOA 1837T. Classification Medical case study. Date of statement 7th November 1837. Location Brighton, Sussex. Author Dr. Margaret Wells, physician. Case study of linked patients. I, Dr. Margaret Wells, physician, do record an unusual medical phenomenon. 3 patients presented with the same complaint. All 3 are members of a philosophical society. The society meets monthly to discuss metaphysics. 4 weeks ago, they attempted an experiment. They wished to test theories about shared consciousness. They believed human minds could link together. They believed thoughts could be transmitted directly between people. They found instructions in an esoteric text. A ritual to create mental bonds. They performed the ritual as a group. 16 members participated. They sat in a circle holding hands. They synchronized their breathing. They spoke the prescribed words. They opened their minds to each other. The ritual succeeded. Too well. They felt their thoughts flowing together. Boundaries between minds dissolved. They experienced each other's sensations, each other's emotions, each other's memories. The sensation was overwhelming. They broke the circle. They ended the ritual. But the connection remained. 3 of the 16 are now my patients. All 3 report the same symptoms. They hear each other's thoughts constantly, not as voices, as direct knowing. They know what the others are thinking. They know what the others are feeling. They cannot block it. The connection is always present. 1 patient lives in Brighton. 1 lives in London. 1 lives in Dover. Distance does not diminish the connection. They experience each other's lives simultaneously. When 1 eats, all 3 taste the food. When 1 feels pain, all 3 feel it. When 1 dreams, all 3 share the dream. They report this is driving them mad. They have no privacy. They have no separation. They are 3 people living as one. I have examined them separately. Each one can tell me what the others did today, what they ate, where they went, who they spoke to, with perfect accuracy. I verified this with witnesses. Everything they report is true. The connection is real. I asked about the other 13 members. They say all 16 are linked, but some have adapted better than others. Some have learned to manage the constant flow. Some welcome it. They say it is evolution. They say it is the future of humanity. They say individual consciousness is primitive. They say linked minds are superior. But my 3 patients suffer. They want separation. They want privacy. They want to be individuals again. I have tried various treatments. Sedatives reduce the intensity but do not break the link. Isolation makes no difference. Distance makes no difference. The connection persists. Yesterday, something new occurred. One of my patients attempted suicide. She consumed poison. Before I could reach her, the other 2 collapsed. They exhibited the same symptoms: convulsions, difficulty breathing, though they had consumed nothing. I treated all 3. all 3 survived, but they felt her dying. They experienced her death beginning. They said it was like drowning in darkness. They said they almost went with her. This morning, the 3 came to me together. They said they have accepted their situation. They said separation is impossible. They said the ritual bound them permanently. They said they must learn to function as a collective. They said they will attempt to join the other 13. They said together the 16 can support each other. They said they will form a community, all living together, all sharing one connected existence. They asked if I thought this was madness. I did not know how to answer. They left my office holding hands, walking in perfect step, turning their heads at the same moment, smiling the same smile. 3 people, 1 mind. Dr. Margaret Wells, physician, Brighton, Sussex, 7th November 1837. Archive note: Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. All 16 linked individuals relocated to a rural estate in 1838. They lived communally until various deaths between 1840 to 1875. Surviving members reported feeling each death as though it were their own. The last survivor died in 1876. His final words: finally alone, finally silent, finally free. End of file. Case file NOA 1652. W classification. Church record. Date of statement 3rd May 1652. Location: Lincoln, Lincolnshire. Author: Father Samuel Harrison, Rector. Record of confession heard: I, Father Samuel Harrison, Rector of Lincoln Cathedral. Do record a confession that troubles me deeply. A young man came to me 3 days ago. He would not give his name. He said he belonged to a secret society, a society of manuscript collectors. They gathered rare texts, books of forbidden knowledge, grimoires and magical writings. They met weekly to study these texts. They believed they could master the secrets contained within. Last month, they acquired a new book, very old, written in Latin and other languages. The book described beings called the archivists, entities that collect and preserve knowledge, all knowledge, every thought ever thought, every word ever spoken, every event ever witnessed. The archivists record everything. They store it in what the book called the Eternal Library, a place outside time and space, a repository of all that ever was. The society decided to contact the archivists. They followed instructions in the book. They created a summoning circle. They spoke the invocations. They offered themselves as supplicants. They asked to visit the Eternal Library. The archivists answered. A door appeared in the air, an actual door where none existed before. The door opened. Beyond lay a vast space, shelves extending infinitely, books and scrolls and tablets, records of everything. The society members entered, all 12 of them. They wandered the shelves in wonder. They found books written in their own handwriting, books they had not yet written, books documenting their future. They found records of every moment of their lives, every secret, every shame, every private thought, all recorded and catalogued. The young man said he found his own death, written in detail, how it would happen, when it would happen, the exact moment and manner. He said most members found the same, their deaths recorded before they occurred. Then they realized something. They were not alone in the library. The archivists were there, watching, recording. The archivists were not human. They were shapes like men, but made of parchment and ink. Their skin was pages covered in writing. Their eyes were illuminated letters. They moved silently through the shelves, always writing, always recording. One archivist approached the society. It spoke. Its voice was like pages rustling. It said the society had made a mistake. It said visitors could view the library, but there was a price for visiting. The price was mandatory contribution. All visitors must provide knowledge to the collection. The society members said they would share what they knew. The archivist said no. It said they misunderstood. It said they must provide knowledge continuously. It said they must become contributors. It said they must join the archivists. Before they could protest, the transformation began. The young man said he felt his skin changing, becoming paper, his thoughts becoming ink, his memories being written on his flesh. He said he was becoming a living book, his entire existence transcribed onto his body. He fought against it. He ran for the door. He barely escaped. As he fled, he looked back. The other 11 were changing. Their skin was parchment now. Their eyes were letters. They screamed, but their screams became written words, appearing on their bodies as they cried out. The door closed behind him. He returned to our world. But the transformation has not stopped. He showed me his hands. They were covered in tiny writing. His life story, written on his skin. He said it spreads each day. More of his body becoming parchment. More of his life being recorded. He said he can feel the archivists pulling at him. They want him to return. They want him to complete the transformation. They want him to join the eternal library. He asked if I could help him, if prayer could stop this. I did not know what to tell him. I have never heard of such a thing. I said I would pray for him. I said I would seek guidance. He thanked me. He said he would return tomorrow, but he did not return. I went to find him. His lodgings were empty. His landlady said he left in the night. She said he looked strange. She said his skin was covered in writing. She said he walked toward the cathedral. I searched for him. I found his clothes in the cathedral library, folded neatly. Nothing else. No sign of him. But on the floor where his clothes lay, I found something. Pages, hundreds of pages, written in different languages, different hands. A record of his entire life, from birth to his final moment. The last page described him dissolving into words, becoming text, returning to the library. Father Samuel Harrison, Rector Lincoln, Lincolnshire, 3rd May, 1652. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The Society of Manuscript Collectors disbanded after this incident. 8 members survived and refused to speak of events. The book that described the archivists was never found despite searches. Similar accounts of the Eternal Library appear in manuscripts from 3 European countries. All describe visitors who never returned. End of file. Case file. NOA1745K. Classification. Naval Report. Date of statement, 21st August, 1745. Location, Portsmouth, Hampshire. Author, Commander Robert Walsh, Royal Navy. Naval Report on Island Discovery Y. Commander Robert Walsh of His Majesty's Royal Navy. Do report on a discovery made during patrol. My ship was ordered to investigate reports of smugglers near the Channel Islands. We searched the area for 3 days. On the 3rd day, we sighted an island not marked on our charts, a small rocky outcrop, perhaps 200 yards across. We approached cautiously. I took a landing party ashore. 6 men with muskets. The island appeared uninhabited, rocky and bare. But we found a structure, A stone building built into the rock, very old by appearance. We investigated. The door was unlocked. Inside was a single circular room. The walls were carved with symbols. The floor was marked with circles and lines. In the center stood a stone pedestal. On the pedestal lay a book. The book was bound in leather, very old, but perfectly preserved. I opened it. The pages contained text in English, a journal of sorts. Dated entries spanning centuries. The earliest entry was from 1247. The most recent was from last week. Different handwritings throughout, but all describing the same thing. The entries spoke of a society called the Keepers of the Threshold. They guarded this island. They guarded what the island contained. They took turns. One keeper always present. Watching, waiting. Watching for what, the journal did not say initially, but as I read further, I understood. The island sits atop a threshold, a weak point between our world and another. Something on the other side tries to push through. The keepers must maintain a barrier. They must speak words of binding. They must perform rituals every day without fail. If they stop, the threshold opens. If the threshold opens, something comes through. I read the most recent entry. Written 5 days ago, the keeper wrote that he was dying. He wrote that no replacement had arrived. He wrote that he would maintain the barrier as long as possible. He wrote that if anyone found this journal, they must continue the work. They must speak the words. They must keep the threshold closed. I found the keeper's body in a small chamber beyond the main room, dead for at least 3 days. I returned to the man's room. I felt something then, a pressure from below. The floor was warm beneath my feet, growing warmer. One of my men called out. The symbols on the wall were glowing. Faint red light from the carved lines. The light grew brighter. The pressure increased. I heard something from beneath the floor, a sound like breathing, but massive. Something huge inhaling and exhaling. The pedestal began to sink. The floor cracked around it. Something was pushing up from below. I ordered my men to leave. We ran for the door. Behind us the floor split open. Darkness poured forth. Not normal darkness. Darkness that moved. Darkness that reached. We reached the boat. We pushed off. I looked back at the island. The darkness was spreading, flowing from the building, covering the rock. Then I remembered the journal. It said someone must speak the words. I had read the words. The binding incantation. It was written on the final page. I shouted the words from the boat, Latin phrases I barely understood. The darkness stopped. It recoiled. It withdrew back into the building. The glow faded. The island grew still. But I know it is temporary. Someone must return to the island. Someone must maintain the barrier. Someone must keep the threshold closed. I reported this to my superiors. They said I was mistaken. They said no such island exists in that location. They said I must have been confused. But I know what I saw. I know what I read. I know something is beneath that island. Something that must never be released. Commander Robert Walsh, Royal Navy, Portsmouth, Hampshire, 21st August, 1745. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The island described cannot be located on modern charts. Commander Walsh insisted on its existence until his death in 1772. He claimed to have returned monthly to perform the binding ritual. His personal journal contains detailed directions to the island. Multiple attempts to follow these directions have failed. The island appears on no historical maps. Whether it still exists, and whether anyone maintains the barrier remains unknown. End of file. Case file NOA1589P. Classification: Legal testimony. Date of statement: 9th December 1589. Location: Derby, Derbyshire. Author: Francis Morton, Magistrates Clerk. Testimony on trial of society. Members: Y. Francis Morton, Clerk to the Magistrate. Do record testimony from a trial. 7 men were accused of witchcraft. All 7 belonged to a society called the League of Seekers. They were caught performing a ritual in a cave outside Derby. The ritual involved strange materials, bones arranged in patterns, herbs burned in combination, words spoken in unknown languages. The men claimed they were not practicing witchcraft. They claimed they were attempting something different. They said they sought to contact beings from the stars. They said these beings visited Earth in ancient times. They said the beings left knowledge behind, knowledge encoded in symbols and rituals. They said their society had decoded these messages. They said they knew how to call the beings back. The magistrate asked why they wished to do this. The eldest man said the beings possessed advanced knowledge. He said they could teach humanity great things. He said they could solve mysteries of life and death. He said they could grant power beyond imagination. The magistrate asked what the beings wanted in return. The man hesitated. Then he said the beings wanted bodies. The magistrate asked what he meant. The man said the beings had no physical form. They existed as pure energy. They could not manifest in our world without vessels. They needed bodies to inhabit. The society offered themselves as vessels. They offered their bodies for the beings to use. The magistrate asked if they understood what this meant. The man said they did. He said their consciousness would be displaced. The beings would take control. But in exchange, the beings would share their knowledge. The society members would gain centuries of learning. They would understand the universe. They would transcend human limitations. The magistrate declared this was madness. He said the men were deluded. He said there were no beings from the stars. The eldest man smiled. He said the magistrate was wrong. He said the ritual had succeeded. He said the beings had already arrived. He said 3 of the 7 were no longer human. He said 3 were already vessels. The magistrate demanded proof. 3 of the men stood. They moved in perfect synchronization. They turned their heads at the exact same angle. They smiled the exact same smile. They spoke in unison. But the voice was wrong. Not quite human. Too precise. Too musical. They said greetings from the stars. They said we have traveled far. They said we are pleased to be here. They said more of us will come. They said humanity will be improved. They said you will all become vessels eventually. The guard seized them. The 3 men did not resist. They continued smiling. They continued speaking. They said violence cannot stop us. They said we do not die. They said if these bodies fail, we will take others. They said we are patient. They said we have eternity. The magistrate ordered them held separately. He ordered them watched constantly. That night, all 3 escaped their cells. The locks were still secured. The doors remained closed. But the prisoners were gone. No explanation, no trace. The next morning, 3 townspeople acted strangely. They moved in perfect synchronization. They spoke with that same precise voice. They said greetings from the stars. The beings had transferred. They had left the prisoners' bodies. They had taken new vessels from among the population. A search began. But how do you find something that can move between bodies? How do you capture something that has no fixed form? The magistrate ordered the remaining 4 society members executed, perhaps to prevent further rituals, perhaps to stop more beings arriving. But the eldest man said it was too late. He said the door was open. He said beings were already flowing through. He said they would spread slowly, taking one body at a time, moving through the population, growing their numbers. He said in time, many would be vessels, perhaps most, perhaps all. He said humanity would become a civilization of hosts. He said we would travel the stars as they do. He said we would spread to other worlds, taking them as we were taken. The 4 men were hanged at dawn. They went smiling, singing in that strange, precise voice. After the executions, I noticed something. The judge who sentenced them. He moved differently than before. His gestures were too precise. His smile was too perfect. His voice had that musical quality. I wonder if he is still human. I wonder how many others are vessels now. I wonder if I will become one. Francis Morton, Magistrates Clerk, Derby. Derbyshire, 9th of December, 1589. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. The League of Seekers disbanded after these events. Reports of unusually precise behavior and synchronized movements appeared sporadically in Derby, 1590-1600. Whether actual possession occurred or mass hysteria spread cannot be determined. Similar societies claiming contact with star beings documented in 4 other locations during the same period. End of file. Case file. NOA 1813D. Classification. Personal account. Date of statement. 1st February 1813. Location. Inverness, Scotland. Author. Duncan Campbell. Merchant. Personal account of Highland Society. Why? Duncan Campbell, merchant of Inverness. Do record my experience with the Highland Society. I was travelling on business through the remote glens. Night fell as I crossed through desolate country. I sought shelter at an isolated inn. The innkeeper welcomed me. He said I was fortunate. He said the society was meeting that night. He said I was invited to observe. I asked what society he meant. He said the Circle of the Mist. He said they preserved ancient Highland traditions. He said they kept alive the old knowledge. I accepted the invitation. At midnight, I was brought to a room behind the inn. 20 men and women sat in a circle. All wore tartans. All spoke in Gaelic. The eldest woman welcomed me. She said I was honoured to witness their gathering. She said few outsiders were permitted. She said the society maintained secrets passed down through generations. She said they communed with the spirits of the land. She said the highlands were alive. She said the mountains had consciousness. She said the mist had memory. She said those who knew the ways could speak with them. I thought this was superstition, Highland folklore and nothing more. Then the ritual began. They chanted in ancient Gaelic. Words I could not understand. The room grew cold. Mist appeared from nowhere. It rolled across the floor like water. It climbed the walls. It filled the space around us. In the mist, I saw shapes. Human shapes, but indistinct. Figures made of vapor. The society members spoke to these shapes. They called them the Old Ones. The spirits who walked the highlands before humans came. The spirits who remain. The mist figures spoke. Their voices were like wind through heather, like water over stone. They spoke in Gaelic. I understood some words. They spoke of changes coming. They spoke of the old ways dying. They spoke of the land forgetting. The eldest woman asked how to preserve the knowledge. The mist figures said it was already fading. They said fewer humans heard them now. They said the society might be the last. They said when the society ended, they would fall silent. They said they would return to the earth. They said they would sleep until someone called them again, if anyone ever did. The woman wept. She asked if there was any hope. The mist figures said perhaps. They said the old blood still flowed in some veins. They said some children were born with the gift. They said the society must find these children. They said the society must teach them. They said this was the only way. Then the figures turned to me. One approached. It reached out. Its misty hand touched my forehead. I felt cold, deep cold that penetrated to my bones. It spoke. Your blood is not old. Your ears do not hear. Your eyes do not see. You will forget this. You will think it was a dream. This is better. Knowledge without the gift brings only madness. The mist withdrew. The figures faded. The room warmed. The society members sat in silence. The eldest woman looked at me. She said I had witnessed something precious. She said I should not speak of it. She said others would not understand. She said I would likely not remember. She said the mist figures had marked me for forgetting. I insisted I would remember. She smiled sadly. I returned to my room. I wrote this account immediately, but already the details grow hazy. Already I question what I saw. Already I wonder if I imagined it. The mist figures said I would forget. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps by tomorrow this will seem like a dream. Perhaps that is for the best. Some knowledge is not meant for those who cannot bear it. Duncan Campbell, Merchant Inverness, Scotland, 1st February 1813. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Duncan Campbell's account found in his personal effects after death in 1845. His later journals make no mention of this experience. The circle of the mist referenced in Highland oral traditions. Whether the society still exists remains unknown. Remote glens of Scotland rarely yield their secrets to outsiders. End of file. Case file. NOA 1684L. Classification. Final testament. Date of statement. 30th October, 1684. Location. Reading, Berkshire. Author, Elizabeth Blackwood. Society leader, Final Testament of Society. Dissolution 1, Elizabeth Blackwood. Leader of the Circle of Seven. Do write this testament before we end. Our society has existed for 150 years. 7 members always, never more, never less. We maintained a specific purpose. We guarded a secret. We kept a promise made by our founders. The promise was this: we would ensure that a certain door remained locked, not a physical door, a door in the fabric of reality itself, a passage between worlds. Our founders discovered this door in 1534. They found it by accident while practicing ritual magic. They opened it just slightly. They looked through. They saw what lay beyond. They saw horrors. They saw a realm of endless darkness. They saw beings that defied description. They saw hunger, vast and eternal hunger. They realized immediately their mistake. They closed the door. They sealed it with 7 locks. Each lock required 1 keeper. 7 people bound by oath. 7 people who would guard the locks. For 150 years we have done this. We have performed the rituals. We have spoken the words. We have maintained the seals. But our numbers are failing. Members die and finding replacements grows difficult. People no longer believe in such things. They laugh at talk of doors between worlds. They dismiss ritual magic as superstition. We are down to 3 members. Myself, Thomas Graves, Margaret Winters. We are all old. We have no successors. We have searched for decades. We have found no one suitable. No one willing to take the oath. No one willing to dedicate their life to guarding a door they cannot see. Yesterday, Thomas died. Margaret is too ill to continue. I am the last. One person cannot maintain 7 seals. The locks are failing. I feel the door pressing. I feel something on the other side, testing the barriers, searching for weakness, finding it. Tonight at midnight, the final seal will break. The door will open. What comes through is not my responsibility anymore. I have done my duty for 60 years. I have held the locks as long as one person can. I leave this testament as warning. The circle of 7 is ended. The door we guarded will open. What emerges will be someone else's problem. I am sorry we could not maintain the watch. I am sorry the world has forgotten why such watches are necessary. I am sorry for what is coming. To whoever finds this testament, the door opens in a place I will not name. If you are wise, you will not search for it. If you are brave, you will find 7 people. You will reform the circle. You will try to close the door again. But I fear it is too late. I fear once fully opened, this door cannot be closed. I fear what was locked away will finally be free. Elizabeth Blackwood, Society Leader, Reading, Berkshire. 30th of October, 1684. Archive note. Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Elizabeth Blackwood's body found November 1st, 1684. Cause of death undetermined. Her testament was sealed and hidden. Discovered in 1891 during building demolition. Location of the mentioned door never identified. Whether it opened as she feared, whether something came through, whether it walks among us now, these questions remain unanswered. Perhaps some mysteries are better left unsolved. End of file. Case closed to public record. The original document remains sealed within the vaults of the British Museum. The NOA archive remains committed to documenting phenomena that defy conventional understanding. These cases are submitted for academic review and further investigation. Further access requires written authorization or curiosity strong enough to ignore the warnings. Until next time, these are the National Occult Archives.